Falmouth Conservation Commission. This meeting is being held virtually via Zoom video conference. Please be patient. We'll do our best to be efficient and allow everyone to participate equitably. This meeting is also being broadcast and streamed online by FCTV in real time. As this meeting is being recorded by Zoom and broadcast by FCTV, please be cognizant of what you say and how you say it, and what can be seen and heard in your background. Chair acknowledges the attendance and continued support of our entire staff. Again, Melissa, Mark, Amy, Kristen, and our temp, Liz. At the moment, we have the absence of one commissioner, so the appointed alternate is Pat Harris. I'd like to remind you guys that for commenting, I'll call on each of you at the appropriate time. Let's try not to speak over each other. Hint, hint. Also, all votes will be done by roll call. When I call your name, please state your name and your vote, even if you made the motion or the second. To our public participants, at any time during this meeting, you may enter any comments or questions via the chat function. At the appropriate time, it will be read into the record. The link and further instructions are located on the agenda. Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021 regarding COVID-19 allows for full public participation. Therefore, if you'd like to be heard on a specific hearing, let us know via the chat function. Then at the appropriate time, I will call for public comment. When you are selected, you will be moved into the hearing as a participant. As such, you must have your video enabled, be succinct, and respectful of others. Public comments will be limited to 3 minutes each. First up, vote minutes, January 19, 2022.
I move that we accept the minutes as written, subject to any modifications agreed to tonight. Harris.
I'll second Gladfelter.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept the minutes as submitted. Any comments, questions? Perfect. Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin.
O'Brien, aye.
Maury.
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Pat.
Harris, aye.
Peter.
Walsh, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted the minutes. Thank you. Next up is a request for a continuance under a notice of intent. 267 Clinton Ave LLC, 267 Clinton Ave, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to install and maintain an on-site Title V septic system upgrade, leaching field bed, and dewatering control system. Ben.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant is requesting a continuance until March 2nd.
So moved, Gladfelter.
Second, O'Brien.
Thank you. All right. We have a motion and a second to continue this till March 2nd. Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin.
O'Brien, aye.
Maury.
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Pat.
Harris, aye.
Peter.
Walsh, aye.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until March 2nd. Next up are requests for determination of applicability. First up, James and Maria Crowley, 19 Anchor Lane, East Falmouth, Mass. For permission to raise an existing dwelling and appurtenances and to construct a new single-family dwelling with all associated utilities, landscaping, and appurtenances. Alyssa. No?
I'll take it, Mr. Chairman. I have him here. The staff is recommending staff is recommending a negative change to the state in the bylaw with the resource area boundaries not confirmed.
Gladfelter, so moved.
Carlo Hawks, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. There's no comments. All right, Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney.
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Pat,
Harris, aye.
Peter.
Walsh, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, David and Eileen McMorran, trustees, 14 Rawson Street, East Falmouth, Mass, for permission to replace an existing stoop with a new deck and steps to relocate existing ornamental plantings and to install mitigation plantings. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we are recommending a -2 and under the state and a -3 under the bylaw with resource area boundaries not confirmed.
Bird, so move.
Carlo Hawks, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. If there's no comments, Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Harris, aye.
Peter.
Walsh, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, our continued request for determination of applicability. First up, Peter Weber and Kenneth Grinnell, trustees, 34 Drift Road, West Falmouth, Mass, for permission to install an osprey pole, platform, and support structure by hand. Ben?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, staff is recommending a -2 to the state and the bylaw with the resource area boundaries not confirmed.
Bird, so move.
Carlo Hawks, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. If there's no questions. All right, Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Harris, aye.
Peter.
Walsh, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Thomas Severo, 87 Santuit Road, North Falmouth, Mass, for permission to remove an existing propane tank and install a new propane tank and generator.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant is requesting a continuance till March 2nd. We're still working with the applicant to find an appropriate place for the propane tank. That entire parcel is a dune.
Is it an underground tank?
Yes, it is, Courtney.
Thank you.
At the request of the applicant, we will continue this. Carlo Hawks.
Gladfelter, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this until March 2nd. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Pat,
Harris, aye.
Peter.
Walsh, aye.
It is unanimous. Excuse me. We have continued this until March 2nd. Next up are requests for hearing under notice of intent. All hearings of the Falmouth Conservation Commission are held simultaneously under the authorities of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw. Although a single decision of the commission is issued, represents a separate decision under each authority. And as a reminder, commenting is limited to 3 minutes. So I encourage you to stay within the purview of this board, which are the rules and regulations of the Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw and how they pertain to a particular application. The chair reserves the right to stop any commenting that is discharging or inconsequential to the hearing. First up, Kevin and Sandra Delbridge, 24 Salt Works Way Nominee Trust, 174 Succonesset Road, and the abutting right-of-way, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to conduct invasive species removal, install native plantings, and to relocate an osprey pole. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I've promoted Nate Guxarian and Maria Hickey up to present their project. They are together.
Thank you.
All right. Nate, you're up, sir.
All right, thank you. Members of the commission, Mr. Chairman, for the record, Nate Gusharian with Holmes McGrath. with Maria Hickey, Landscaping and Associates, presenting on behalf of the client. Permission to share my screen, please.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Okay, can you see the colored plan?
We see an owl.
Oh,
How about now? Every time.
yes.
Yeah, okay. So the property we're talking about tonight is 174 Saconesset Road, as well as a 160 square foot abutting right of way directly west of the property. This is owned by the Homeowners Association. 174 Saconesset Road is a private residentially developed parcel of land comprised of about 41,000 square feet. The property currently features a single family home, a pool, a patio and deck, and associated landscaping. Wetland resources on or within 100 feet of the property include salt marsh, coastal bank, and land subject to coastal storm flowage. So this is a twofold project. It's pretty straightforward. The first component that we're proposing is invasive species removal along this coastal bank right here, and then replanting of native species. The coastal bank, the existing conditions are basically the myriad of invasives that we typically see on coastal banks in the Cape. In a second, I'm going to let Maria kind of expand on her land management plan that pertains to that portion of the project. The second component of the project involves the relocation of an existing osprey pool nest, which is located here right now, to be relocated at the toe of the coastal bank, directly north of Little Sipawesset Marsh. So relocating the pole, there's typically three factors that are paramount in either osprey nest relocations or initiation. The first one is proximity to the water for obvious reasons. The second one is distance from disturbing areas or roads or anything like that that could disturb parents or nesting juveniles. And then the third is being adjacent to perches. And this is particularly important for nests that are going to be fledgling chicks in the future. And we've got all those three parameters met down here. We've got a whole bunch of oaks in this vicinity, which are basically right at the level of the nest would be. I think at this point that's it for me. Mr. Chairman, I'd ask if we could hand it over to Maria Hickey.
Hello, Maria.
Good evening. For the record, Maria Hickey and Associates Landscapes. As you may have been aware when you went out to look at this proposed project, the majority of 174 Saconesset, we already introduced a land management plan and removed the invasive vegetation and replanted with a mix of native shrubs, as well as some mitigation shrubs to offset an increase in a deck on the back of the house. The client would now like to expand to the project to include this parcel, which was not included in the first order of conditions. And this is the remainder of 174 plus the right of way for the Saconesset Homeowners Association. We have had great success with the parcel that we already performed invasive species on. And so we just are continuing that effort and moving it over. Therefore, the planting plan is comprised of the same plants, just extending over into the 20-foot right of way. The 20-foot right of way is more heavily wooded with trees. And I would ideally like to put some viburnum in that area, but I'm not sure what my underground obstacles are going to be in the form of rocks, roots from the trees, etc. And the viburnum tend to have a much bigger root ball than some of the other plantings. So I would respectfully ask if I can meet with staff on site when we go to that, when we get to that point. If we can dig a hole and get some viburnum in, we certainly will. I know that Mark had shared his concerns about wanting to see some viburnum, and I need to plant the viburnum where the site conditions match what the plant needs so that the plant will not only survive and thrive. In the majority area, it's full sun, and my concern would be the viburnum would burn. So with that being said, we will be doing an invasive species eradication and removing everything that's out there that's not native, which includes is bittersweet, there's honeysuckle, there is porcelain berry vine. And if you looked in the trees, you're going to see how the vines have already girdled the trees. I mean, they've been there for years. There's a few trees that even if I can get the vines out, they are in very poor shape as a result. The vines compete and dominate for sun, water, and nutrients out of the soil in this area. So again, we want to just remove the non-native invasive vegetation. Once that's done, we will then move the osprey pole and reset it in the location as noted on the plan. And once that's in and all set, and again, Mark met out there with us and we all agreed on the best site. So once the osprey pole and nesting platform has been moved and installed, we will then begin the planting. And again, 3 to 4 feet on center, all the way up to the edge of the road. And we are creating a higher functioning habitat than what is currently existing. And my goal with those high bush blueberries are to pollinate them and produce a nice crop for the birds. And therefore I have the Rosa virginiana just below it, because when that flowers, it'll pollinate the blueberries. And then the rose hips from the Rosa virginiana also provide food and nesting area for the nesting native songbirds and other wildlife. With that being said, I would welcome any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Jen, do you want to begin?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Maria, you had bayberry and high bush blueberry in the other planting plan, did you not?
We originally did, but the bayberry was not available in the appropriate size when we went to the nursery. And we had substituted in like 2 rows of ilex, glaber, inkberry, which I'd prefer not to put in there. I'd rather use plethora, blueberry, Rosa virginiana, etc., and some viburnum.
Okay, well, I would prefer to have closer to the salt marsh, actual salt marsh species.
Okay.
So, as we said in our staff report, you know, I don't want to see a lot of rows in this area. You have enough rows over there, so staff is recommending more of a natural kind of planting plan with the salt marsh, the salt tolerant species closer to the marsh, and then transitioning that up with more bayberry and more beach plum in that area. We're considering that St. John's Wort on a different site, and we had talked about using that. In fact, it's going to be a hearing coming up tonight that we said that we'd like to, you know, we would consider trying on that site.
Okay.
So I would like to see that, you know, as a, you know, look at the other site, try it, see how it does, and then transition. So I'd like you to take a look at that planting plant and kind of maybe modify it a bit. Another thing they noticed, Alyssa noticed when she was in the field, was that there's a number of paths down that right of way. So maybe creating just one path for the neighborhood to use would be great. What am I hearing?
Feedback.
Yeah, why am I getting a
Yeah,
lot
I'm
of feedback?
hearing that too.
Somebody has something going in their background.
That so that, and then we need those property boundaries, and they were not clearly marked, and I think I made it very clear to Holmes and McGrath the last time I spoke to them regarding your other project 174, that I want those property boundaries clearly staked in the field before you do work. So we're going to want a pre-construction meeting. And I want those property boundaries very clearly staked. That's the property boundary with the town's property in particular, as well as having that salt marsh kind of flagged out, because there shouldn't be any work in the actual salt marsh, and those flags weren't really clear in the field. So we'd like that. That's on the engineer and surveying company to have that done for the pre-construction. And I think that's all we have, unless Alyssa has anything to add. Oh, and another thing, Maria, could you put a plant count on your plan for us? I think we calculated out it'd be like 673 plants the way you have them spec'd out. So if you could just kind of give us a breakdown of how many of each you think. I know there's some wiggle room in there, but
Okay.
that would be great. And I think that's all I have unless Alyssa has anything else to add, Mr. Chairman.
I just had one question for Maria. I know you typically do this, but once you get down to the salt marsh, is that where you'll be doing more of your manual means of removal for invasive?
Yes, yes. And then also to Alyssa, to let you know, when you mentioned about the paths out there, I found out after the fact that was from the field survey crew that they needed to cut a path.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So we replant all that stuff anyhow,
Okay.
Okay.
because I was like, it's a
Thank you.
path to nowhere.
Okay, one other quick question, the Osprey pole. Nate, is there another pole within the line of sight of that the proposed pole?
No, not that I,
Oh, like a neighboring Osprey pole? I don't believe so. We're
Okay,
pretty extensively checked the site. I did not see
when
another
we,
Osprey nest.
yeah, we probably spent 4 months down there when we were doing the rest of the removal and replanting at 174, and I never saw another one down there.
As
Okay.
far as I know, it's the only one.
okay. Because that, I mean, if we do have poles that are within the line of sight of each other, that can cause some tension and stress for the birds that we want to try to avoid. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
You sure?
Mhm.
Alyssa, just for future reference, when Jen says, that's all I have, just like count to 10, because she'll come up with 3 more things. Oh, good. I'm kidding. All right. All right, moving on to commissioner comments. Betsy, I think you have something going on in your background.
I don't have anything. The TV is off, the dogs are asleep.
All right. I'll take your word for it.
You want me to bow out of the meeting?
No, I
No.
don't. I'm getting out of it that easy. All right,
We're actually hearing the voice speak echo. So it's something in the system separate from us, I would guess. When Jen was speaking, her voice was echoing. When you spoke, Jamie, your voice was echoing. I suspect mine's echoing right
How about
now.
on our end, when I spoke, was there an echo?
No.
All right, so then it's within the building.
all right. Sorry,
I mean,
Betsy.
within-
Why did you think it was me?
Because when anybody speaks, the frame lights up and your frame keeps lighting up. That's how
Oh,
it squares.
I'm not. I'm
just
speaking
saying.
now. Speaking now and my frame's lit. Now I'm gonna stop. It's still,
And your
it's
frame
still,
lit.
it's still lit. Sorry,
All right, moving forward. Commissioner comments. Betsy.
I have no comments. Thanks, Jamie. Thanks, Nate. Thanks, Maria.
That's it. I just want to
Well-
interject. The reason that I'm here with Nate is because, like yourself, I have dogs and I have one that's dying to be on camera. So I didn't want to be disruptive.
We sometimes allow ours. We know who has dogs in this group.
Yeah,
They've all been to the meetings.
yes.
There's been cameo appearances throughout the.
And one of mine
And
is deaf,
sometimes-
so I can't
sometimes
even
we
yell at him to
conduct
get out of the
commission-
camera.
Business. All right, Courtney.
I will echo Betsy's comments.
That was
We'll
pretty
play
good.
on words there. All right. Kevin,
No comments, Mr. Chairman.
Maury.
I just had 2 comments, that maybe prior to them doing the mechanical aspect in the manual, that maybe some stakes be put so they know where the stop line is for the mechanical separation. And the other thing was, the staking really is rather irritating. And I had Jamie bring this up before, and I just really want lot lines staked because it's just important for everybody, for the job, for the commissioners to go out. And the other thing, this is for Marie, you say you're going to be done by May 15th. and you're gonna bring new soil in. I mean, it's only, that's like 8 weeks away. I mean, you know, you have,
So hopefully this application is approved and the order of conditions is issued because we want to start immediately. I find it's better to plant, if we can, in April and early May, because you're at the beginning of the growing season. The weather is cool. The plants more readily root in without the stress of.
oh, I agree.
Yeah.
Totally agree. But my concern is that the ground is frozen right now. And to rip out, to get the roots totally cleared out. And then you said you're gonna import soil. So I just, you know, where the soil's coming from and. I mean,
So the
stacking,
vendor that we use for the soil, it's a mix of loam and compost, and they're open year round. That part of it's not an issue. I have a power auger that drills the perfect size hole for our native shrubs. If the ground's frozen, I can use that. We usually hand dig, but you know, it's a handheld auger.
I'm more concerned about the, you know, that when the ground's frozen, you strip roots out, the roots stay behind because, you know, they're frozen. And bringing in new soil, that's always I get a little nervous with soil compost. I don't know how much you're gonna bring in, but, you know, I'd just be concerned how much is gonna be transported onto that site that could have. Anyway, those are my concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Pat,
No comments, thank you.
Peter?
I have some questions about the expansion into the way. And the way is probably held by a different deed and organization. And I didn't see in the folder any letter giving permission to do this to the way. So could you explain that?
Permission was given by the president of the Homeowners Association for Saconaset Hills. It should be in there. I believe his first name is Tom.
He signed the application, but you
Yes.
know why.
He signed the application, so they did give permission.
Okay, no further questions.
Thank you. All right, Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
No, there isn't, Mr. Chairman, but I do have a couple of more comments. Does the board want to see a revision to the planting plan, or are you okay with the planting plan that was provided? Because the staff has some concerns with that planting plan. And second, to follow up on Maria's comment, Maria, you're going to clear the site. Do you have the stock already secured?
Yes.
Because I don't want to get into a point like we did on the other site where you had the site totally stripped out and you couldn't get the bayberry. And I do not want a repeat of what happened on the last project, if you understand what I'm saying.
Absolutely,
So-
absolutely. I
So,
have the stock
staff is
ready to go.
really concerned with the planting plan and would like to see some revisions.
And again, the planting plan is a continuation of what we have at 174, which already is thriving and
You do not have bushy, or you were not approved to put the bushy St. John's wort at 174, and you're proposing here.
correct. So we can easily.
So it's not a
swap that out.
continuation.
We can easily swap that out for another species. That's not a
And I would like the rows to be replaced. There's a lot of rows on that sod already where there wasn't any rows before. And I'd like to see more salt tolerant species closer to that salt marsh.
So the reason I have the rose, because that's in the section where the hill is the steepest, and the Rose virginiana sends numerous runners, creating almost like a mat underground. And that's to help stabilize so that we do not have any erosion. And it's, to me, the best one in the field that I've seen.
Bayberry grows by runners as well.
Plethora.
Yeah.
Maura, you
Falmouth
have
is
something?
becoming a rose garden, and I'm done, Mr. Chairman. The board can decide what they'd like to do.
Maury?
I read staff's report and going out there and looking at the plan, I think a plan that has more substantial planting on it and not just leaving it always up to staff, because it's very difficult for staff to keep going out there and making sure that everything's done. You know, have it staked. Let's get the stakes in. Let's show where you're going to stop the manual, your mechanical removal and where that line is. You know, I know Marie's totally responsible, but when you have guys out in the field, things go, you know, some stuff can go wrong. But, and I agree with Jen and Alyssa on the plant species. I think that, you know, what they had recommended is more diverse and mixed up a little bit more for the habitat.
All right, Maria, are you willing to revise that plan?
Yes, I'm willing to revise that plan. And I also did want to just go on record to say that the plants that we have in here do meet the performance standards of compliance for this site. However, we're more than happy to introduce additional species as well. So I can submit to Jen by the end of the week an updated revised plan.
I don't want to close this. I would feel uncomfortable closing this hearing, Mr. Chairman, until we saw that plan.
Right, that's why I asked.
Yeah, I'd like to see it continue.
So Nate, obviously we're looking for a revision to the plan.
Yep.
So you guys can work on that together, I would think.
Yep.
So if you would, I'd like a formal request from you.
Yeah, formally request a continuance hearing.
Maria, how much time do you need?
I just wanted to
Jen,
ask
what do
a
we have for
question.
date? Please don't talk over me.
I'm sorry.
Jen, what do we have for dates?
Looking at that right now, Mr. Chairman.
Maria, how long do you need to produce that?
I could have it tomorrow. I'm just more concerned by continuing. I'm going to lose my timeline of being able to get planted by May 15th.
It's always a rush. And I'm sorry, the plan is just not acceptable to the staff. So we'll just have to.
So when does she have to have the plan in so that we can do it the next meeting?
If you want to have it on the 16th, we have 5 new notices and 1 continued and 1 you haven't opened. So, I mean, this would be fairly easy.
Okay.
Yep.
Great,
that
thank
definitely
you.
works.
That's what I'm
Thank
thinking.
you.
If all we're looking for is to verify the revisions, then that should be kind of quick. Excuse me,
Okay,
Kevin, you had
there is
something?
going to be an on-site prior, Maria, so I don't want any machines on that parcel or on that right of way until Holmes and McGrath gets back out there and put some appropriate staking along all those property lines and clearly marks that salt marsh.
You got it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that is to protect you guys.
Exactly.
Kevin?
Do we have a
thought-
date for the continuance?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
16th.
To the 16th,
Do you want a motion, Jamie?
please.
We have some public chat though, Mr. Chairman. Sorry.
I thought I asked. Okay,
Well, no, they just submitted it. They want to know when the Osprey pole will be moved. Osprey returned to this site in late March. I thought you said it's a new pole.
We're
No, they're
moving
shifting the
forward.
pole that's there.
Okay, got it. So Nate,
Can you
when's
answer
that
that
pole going to be
question, Nate?
moved?
I think we're still working on the logistics of that, but I will reach out and get an update for you tomorrow, if that works.
Okay, and you can
We were
provide that
actually-
information next week.
We
Yeah,
were the
sounds
ones,
good.
we were the ones that are going to move the pole. And that was the second thing to be done. So,
Okay.
So at the request of the applicant, I'll make a motion to continue this to February 16th.
Our second.
Okay, so Maria, if you can get that done in a timely manner, then this should be very short and sweet next time.
You got it.
and we can get you an order of conditions.
Thank
All
you.
right, we have a motion and a second. To continue this until February 16th. So if there's nothing further, Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, I.
Maury, Pat,
Harris, aye.
Peter.
Walsh, aye.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until February 16th. Thank you, Nate. Thank you, Maria.
Thank you for your
Thank
time,
you.
everybody. You're
Thank
on
you.
the next one.
Hang tight, Nate. I'm going to put you back in the attendees.
Okay.
Should be going back now.
Next up, Kevin Clower II, trustee, 18 Willis Lane nominee trust, 18 Willis Lane, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to restore previously planted buffer to a coastal bank. John,
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have a couple of people I have to promote up for this one, so give me 1 second. I think I'm promoting Nate back up because Maria's there. Sorry about that, Nate and Maria.
He's still on the hook.
I'm like, wait a minute, I just put Maria back in the attendees.
all right,
Well-
administratively first, Jen, how are we gonna deal with the,
Wait 1 second, Mr. Chairman. I have one more person to promote up. So we have Mike, I'm going to say your name wrong.
Keo.
Keo, okay. We have Attorney Keo for the applicants. We have Maria Hickey and Jeff. You need to accept yourself as a panelist if you can hear me. And the board is finally going to meet Jeff Johnson from face to face. You always see his name, but he's never presented before you.
because he doesn't
I
really
know,
exist.
Jeff. He exists.
I'm kidding.
And I'm trying to promote him up. I don't know what's going on.
He has to accept. Maybe he
He
doesn't
has
want
to
to
accept
accept.
it. Not accepting it.
Nate, tell him you give him a raise if he gets on camera.
Okay.
Oh. Okay, he just left my thing. Where'd he go? I think Nate's trying to call him right now. Where'd he go?
Yes, I think he went in the other room to try to call.
Yeah, it's fine.
It was quite a feat getting Jeff to agree.
I know. He sent me that email this afternoon. I'm like, did I just read that right?
So
While
anyhow,
we're waiting for Jeff, Maria,
yes,
either come by or call me tomorrow. We can talk about your plan for the last one.
sure. I would love to do that.
Yeah.
And I'm glad to hear that everyone survived the blizzard okay. We were out in the field plowing for 90 hours over 4 days. The stories I could tell. So I'm glad to have survived that and caught back up on sleep.
He is having technical difficulties, Mr. Chairman. So why don't we just table this and move on to one? Mr. Kehoe, I'm going to put you back into the attendees list along with Maria. And when Jeff comes back, we're just going to take the next, maybe one or
Nate's-
two.
Nate's on the
hearings.
phone with him right
We'll-
now.
we'll Bring you guys back.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay.
I'm gonna make a motion to table this
Bird,
until we
second.
have everybody.
I second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to table this hearing. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, I.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, I.
Maury,
Hollow Hawks Eye.
Pat, you're on mute.
RSI.
Thank you. Peter,
Walsh, aye.
it's unanimous. We have tabled this hearing. Next one has already been continued. All right. Next, continued hearings under notice of intent. First up, George Botello Jr., George L. Botello, year 2019 Revocable Living Trust, 22 Flax Pond Road, Falmouth, Mass. Full permission to replace an existing floating dock with an entirely fixed dock fitted with a bubbler system. And before anybody begins, I'm going to remind you, hearing is about a dock. Else, i.e. the violation, in quotes, violations or anything else will be dealt with separately. I'm sure you've all seen the letters from the legalese. So remember, this is about a dock, nothing else. And now Jeff Johnson pops up.
Hey, there I am.
You know?
Okay, you know what, Jeff? We're just gonna blank yourself and mute yourself. We're gonna take the next hearing and then we'll untable yours. Thank you, Jeff.
All right. Mike, you want to begin?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. For the record, Mike Porcelli, Falmouth Engineering. I represent the applicant, George Botello. Mr. Botello's in my office with me if there's questions or issues for him to respond to. And you can see Brian Wall, who wrote an opinion piece. My recollection of the last hearing when we continued it was that the dock matters had been resolved and that we continued it to look into the matters of Flax Pond Road. So unless there's specific questions about the dock, I think we satisfied your concerns on that. I'm going to turn it over to Brian, and we're both here to answer any questions as well as Mr. Botello.
Thank you, Mike. Mr. Wall?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Thank you for having me. Mr. Chairman, I'm going to pick up on what you mentioned at the outset of the hearing. My opinion, let me back up. I was retained by Mr. Botello to address some comments that the commission made last time about improvements that were within the layout of the way. And I've submitted an extensive opinion about that. But with regard to your comment about keeping comments limited to the dock, I'm happy to discuss what I wrote, but am I hearing you correctly?
Well, our legal advice has been that these need to be separated because one really has nothing to do with the other, or
Okay.
indirectly.
Well,
And
if I
Jessica
may,
disagree with me, so bear with her.
no, I actually agree with that, Mr. Chairman, and maybe what I'll do is just be extremely brief. As I said a minute ago, the commission made some comments last time or expressed some concerns about some improvements that were within the layout of the way, including a shed, some pavement, and some brick walkways. And so what I did was I did some title research. I ran the titles back of Mr. Botello's property, and I also ran the title of the property across the way owned by the town of Falmouth. And all of these details are set forth in my letter. I think the primary takeaway is that what I discovered was that the titles diverged back in 1932. And the subdivision that Mr. Botello's property in was created in 1956. And what that essentially means is that Mr. Botello owns the entire road layout from his property boundary all the way over to the property owned by the town of Falmouth. And the law of Massachusetts is that if somebody owns the dirt, so to speak, the soil that makes up the road, they are allowed to make improvements to that road so long as the improvements are not inconsistent with the rights of others to use the road. And in this case, the people that have the right to use the road are the other people in the subdivision, and they have the right to pass and repass on the road in front of Mr. Botello's property to get to the pond. So the bottom line is the law says that at grade improvements like the pavement and the brick walkways, and even the shed to the extent that it encroaches slightly into the road, are lawful because they do not impede the right to pass and repass. And so I would respectfully submit to the commission that these are lawful improvements and are really kind of beyond the purview of this particular hearing. And that's the sum and substance of my letter.
Yeah. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. This is a dock project. The encroachments are more easement issues. Some of the concerns that the staff had and we will be addressing those separately.
I think that's the cleaner.
I
way
do
to
have one
it.
question about the dock. Mike, I don't have the plan right in front of me for some reason, but you did reduce the size of that float to the 100 square feet, right?
Yes, with your permission, Mr. Chairman, I'll share my screen very briefly.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
It's now 10 by 10. It was
Thank you,
revised the last time around, the plan revision right there. So yes.
Great, thank you.
Mhm.
Mr. Chairman and Jen as staff, may I just also add to what I said a moment ago? I stand by the legal opinion, but obviously we're welcome and we'd be happy to talk to Jen about the improvements and see if we can work things out. I didn't want to appear like we were just not willing to discuss them, but I think that we'd be proactive and talk to Jen about it.
I'd welcome that conversation, Brian.
Okay, that'd be
So
great.
once we get the dock issue settled, then we can address the encroachment and some of the things out there on the town's property that we'll need to address eventually.
That's great. And let me add, Jen, too, that Mike and I talked to Mr. Botello, and so the statement that I just made is on his behalf. He wants
Yes.
to talk about these things.
Thank you. Thank you, George. I know you're in the background. I can see your hand.
You're welcome.
This is just one of those hearings where it gets convoluted because of seemingly unrelated but related issues. So Mike, I apologize to you on our behalf that, we had to continue this and it's something that we really should be dealing with separately. So thank you for your diligence.
Oh, that's fine. It's good that it's been addressed.
Yeah, we needed the legal opinion, so it was good that, we did have that continuance for Frank's opinion.
Yep. All right. So does anybody have anything about the dock they want to talk about?
Maura has her hand up.
More.
I couldn't hear you, Jamie. No, I just had two questions. On the revision, I just think that we should put what the revision was, that it was the 10 by 10 dock instead of staff report, just in the future, makes it cleaner. And then we discussed what the piles were going to be made out of, Mike, at the last hearing.
Yes, timber, but non-CCA.
Okay. Because it is a pond. Usually we like locust or cedar, but we'll leave that.
Yeah, Mike, it's actually no chemically treated wood, so no chemically treated wood at all.
No
just
chemically treated wood. We understand it. They're probably going to be green heart.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Anybody else have anything?
I just to tell you that everybody's on the quorum.
Oh, Steve. He's not here.
He's not here.
He's on the
Everybody
quorum, but
who's
not here.
here. No, he's not on the quorum. He's not here.
I guess I'm stuttering. All right, I'll entertain a motion in a second.
I'll make a motion to close.
Take it under
You got
advisement.
three. Got three to choose from.
All right, I got a motion. I'm looking for a second.
Colorhawk second.
Thank you. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function?
Nothing in the public chat, Mr. Chairman.
All right. We have a motion and a second to close the hearing and take it under advisement. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, I.
Maury,
Carlo Hawks eye.
Harris, aye.
Peter.
Walsh, aye.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Mr. Boselli. Thank you, Mr. Wall. Thank you, Mr. Botello.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Brian, is this your only hearing this evening?
It is, yes.
Good night, Brian. Good night, George, Mike. I'm putting you back in
Thank you.
attendees.
Okay, thank you.
I'll move to on table Willis Lane.
Harris, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to untable 18 Willis Lane. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, I.
Maury,
Carlo Hawks eye.
Harris, aye.
Peter.
Walsh, aye.
It is unanimous. We have untabled 18 Willis Lane. Jen,
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Jeff Johnson is, I've promoted Attorney Kehoe back up. I have promoted Maria Hickey back up. And Jeff, you're up. Jeff, oh, there we go.
There you
And it seems like I didn't put Brian. 1 second, Mr. Chairman. And I'm changing Brian Wall to an attendee. So we are all set. Whew.
Jeff, are you or
Jeff.
Nate going to begin?
If I may, I will, my name is Michael Keough.
All right.
I'm here on behalf of the applicants. And I thank you for the opportunity to speak with you this evening. With me is Jeff Johnson and Nate Gargarian. I know I mangled that. From Holmes McGrath, Maria Hickey of Maria Hickey and Associates Landscape. Tonight, we intend to present our plan to address the concerns that were articulated in the enforcement letter that was issued last year. It is our contention that the plan we present will do just that, but also it will act as an improvement to the previously approved plan. We're glad for this process because it also would allow any comments from any abutters if there are any. Our plan did contemplate and does contemplate the long-term stability of the buffer, and we do intend to remove the unauthorized lawn and irrigation system, as well as filling in the 2 unpermitted paths. As you'll hear from Jeff and from Nate and from Maria, we propose a greater number of and greater diversity of plants than was previously required. And we hope that this will enhance the stability and the long-term viability of the buffer. We're also open to reasonable conditions and include a free monitoring program so that we can assess the success of our proposal. Sort of like a guarantee, if you will. And with that, I'd like to turn this over to Jeff.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Good evening. Jeff Johnson of Holmes McGrath, consultant with Holmes McGrath, for the record.
Can't hear him. Jeff, I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Let's see. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yep. Okay. Let me try speaking up. Okay. With your permission, I'd like to share my screen, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
This is 18 Willis Lane, property on Vineyard Sound, a little over an acre in size. This is an existing house that was rebuilt under an order of conditions from 2015. There's a stone riprap and a stone groin license on the property. That the stone riprap was also rebuilt around the same time or just before the house was reconstructed. There was mitigation provided at the time of the construction of the house, and this plan represents the site conditions at the time of compliance. Resource areas include the land under the ocean, Lake Katy shellfish, the coastal beach, the armored coastal bank, and the entire site is in land subject to coastal storm flowage as it is in the flood zone. We've got elevations around elevation 6. This this lighter green area on the plan represents the native plantings that were installed for the compliance, for the mitigation, and at the time of compliance. There was at that time there was also this band of beach grass that was planted. Actually, the beach grass was planted after the riprap was installed, and then this was the edge at the time of compliance. With this darker green area representing lawn. The existing conditions. That's the blow up of the same thing. Let's see. Let's go to. So what we've gone from here to this edge of planting area to the current existing conditions. When staff sent the enforcement order to the applicant, the homeowner, they responded by contacting us, and we went out and performed an existing conditions survey, and found that a portion of the previously existing buffer had been removed and altered, and the lawn expanded in this area. We also found that there were two small pathways that were not authorized, and the band of native plantings from the edge of the lawn to the top of the riprap, almost exclusively beach grass. Working with staff over the last couple of months, we've developed a restoration plan. And this is the plan that we have filed with this notice of intent application. On this plan, you can see there's this sort of swiggled edge, scalloped edge. Here it comes away from like this. This represents the actual line of plantings at the time of compliance. It goes back in here like this. What we're proposing is to really identical location up to this point, but then just sort of smoothing out this edge, adding more plantings here and taking them away here, just to make it a nice smooth edge along the plant from the existing house. Also proposed is the removal, the abandonment of the two pathways over here that will be planted with the mothla and some woody vegetation. So we have this plan also shows the same line of the beach grass that existed at the time of compliance, following here in my cursor. So seaward of that line, we intend to keep the beach grass as it is and as it was at the time of compliance. Landward of that, there are there's a mixture of woody buffer plantings proposed to restore the buffer back to its original square foot area. Along the edge of the plantings and lawn area, we've proposed, it's kind of hard to see, there's some small black dots along the edge here. They represent ground level lighting. Also, there is the approved sand path, which is lined with sort of a rope and post handrail. At the landward end of that is proposed wash spigot. Basically just a ground level washing station. I will let Maria continue with the description of the plantings. We've designed this in such a way that we've got a diversity of plantings of both in height and density that provide a long-term sustainable buffer here, and we feel is appropriate for the site. And with that, I think I'd like to pass that along over to Maria.
Thank you, Jeff. For the record, Maria Hickey and Associates Landscapes. As you are all aware, this is a site that is exposed to quite a bit of wind. And in designing our planting plan, we put together a mix of native woody shrubs that would thrive, not only survive, but thrive in these site conditions of full sun, wind, salt spray from the ocean at times down by the battered wall. And our methodology is to first go in and replant the 2 unpermitted paths with beach grass, and then to remove the existing lawn to replant with our native shrubs. We ask permission to execute our planting plan to restore this resource area so it will not only survive but thrive. We have a mix of bayberry, beach plum, winterberry, Carolina rose, shrubby cinquefoil, St. John's wort, and then again, the American beach grass to fill in the paths. The shrubby cinquefoil that was used before didn't fare well. We felt too close to the riprap wall. And in this case, we will have other plantings surrounding it, which will buffer it from the wind and any other exposed elements that may have a negative impact on it. We will also be removing the ornamental grasses that were planted on the sides, and again, adding in more native shrubs. So it's actually more native shrubs being planted than the original order of conditions back in, I believe, 2015. We would like to demarcate between the lawn and the planting area with a black steel edge. I know staff had mentioned in their report that they'd like to see a low fence, and we feel that the steel edge more than adequately provides a divisional line between ornamental and the resource area. Also, we came forward with this notice of intent application so that, because we wanted to have conditions and to be able to give you monitoring reports and show you twice a year how this project is doing. And if any concerns are there, those can be met at that time. We feel that we have provided a good mix of shrubs that meet our performance of standards to revegetate this beautiful resource area, and we look forward to doing so. I would be happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Nate, do you have anything to add?
Not at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Jeff, I think you're the one sharing your screen. If you don't mind, please stop. And don't be surprised if we ask you to bring it back up. That's what we do. Jen,
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So first off, this notice of intent was filed by the applicant. But this board currently has an enforcement matter on its agenda tonight to address this issue. So the enforcement matter and the previous notice of intent and order of conditions should be rolled into this hearing because this notice of intent was filed. Quite frankly, we didn't know the notice of intent was going to be filed. The staff was working through a planting plan with Holmes McGrath and Maria Hickey. And next thing we knew, we got the filing. So, so the staff still has a few concerns with the proposed planting plan that we were never able to fully flush out with the applicant's representative before this plan was filed. So some of the staff's concern is the interspersing of the beach grass, the use of the cinquefoil. Obviously, the cinquefoil and the sweet fern really did not do well the last time. There was a monitoring report submitted by Blue Flax that said some of the plantings had died, so they interspersed those areas with additional beach grass, but we're not sure in what quantities. So there's plenty of beach grass down by that revetment. So one of the staff's concerns when we were in an initial discussion with the applicant's representative was the additional of more beach grass on this site. This was a highly vegetated coastal bank, although it was quite all invasives when the original restoration plan was done. And obviously that restoration plan had some trouble with the species that was chosen at that time, which included the cinquefoil, as well as obviously it was just removed. That said, the last plan had only about, I think, like 8% of rows, if I can read that night. Now this plan has 24% rows. So staff does have some concerns with that. We have concerns with the use of that shrubby cinquefoil, which obviously did not do well. So we'd like to kind of see that switched out. We have talked to Maria about the use of the St. John's wort, as I alluded to in an earlier hearing, and we did agree to, support the use of that plant in this location as kind of like a trial. We're doing kind of the trial huckleberry sod on the adjacent parcel at 24 Willis. So we're, unless the board has some real concerns with that, and I'll leave that up to the board, we thought maybe a trial kind of run with the bushy St. John's wort might be beneficial, kind of change it up. But I still do have some concerns with the additional beach grass that's going in, as well as the cinquefoil. And again, like my comments in the last hearing, our poor coastline is turning into a rose garden, and the use of Carolina rose and Virginia rose really does need to we need to curb the amount of rose we're putting along our coastal banks. Also, Jeff, I have a question. There's no mention of coastal dune on this site yet. When we were discussing the planting plan, you kept calling the area coastal dune. Is there a reason why that delineation was left off the plan?
Yes, specifically, again, we engaged also Michael Ball, the botanist, to come and take a look at the dune. He is an expert on dunes, and we wanted to know whether it was a dune or not, and how to address that in our notice of intent. He did several borings here, and he was not confident in calling this a regulatory dune. There's beach grass here and there is sand there, but the corings were they were glacial material just below the surface.
Shocking, kind of like I said that during our original discussions that it wasn't a dune.
So the original delineation from the original application was correct, and so we didn't label it a dune on the notice of intent plan.
So again, Mr. Chairman, my comments that, the beach grass is there. Our initial conversations, they were calling it a dune just because of the presence of the beach grass. We don't need to keep putting additional beach grass on a coastal bank. There really should be more appropriate plantings on the coastal bank. There's enough beach grass on that site. And I think unless Alyssa has anything to add, she did a quite thorough analysis of everything in the staff report. I don't think I have anything to add other than the board will have to decide whether I see you counting. The installation of a single rail fence versus the black steel. Maria, what did you call it?
It's black steel edging. It comes in.
Edging, yeah, the edging.
You can leave it a few inches above grade, so it's clearly visible. It does not impede wildlife migration in any way, shape, or form.
No, it's just the little steel edging.
Yes.
That's fine. I'm going to hold any potential additional comments I have. There you go. Until later on, Mr. Chairman.
Appreciate that. Alyssa, do you have anything to add?
Jen covered all of our points. Thank you.
Jeff,
All
did
right,
you want
Mario,
to?
we'll start with you.
The landscape lighting, where is it and what are the lumens?
It follows along the edge of the lawn and the plantings. It would be just on the landward edge of the steel edging. I can get you the lumen information on that, but I don't have that at my fingertips.
Okay, so it's just going to be a low voltage.
Just a low voltage
in ground
light, the light that only going to be a few inches or less than from the ground. So just foot lighting.
Foot lighting. Okay. Everybody's starting to upward light and downward light, and the coastline's becoming polluted with light.
Yeah. This is a downward light.
Okay, downward lighting. All right, we should be on the plan where it is, though. The
It
other
does-
thing
we-
is,
we-
I have
we
to agree with
we have it
staff.
marked
as
on
far-
we do have it marked on the plan, Lauren.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, there's little black squares along the edge.
Okay, I see. I thought that was going to be fencing, because usually we require fencing. So, and I didn't see it in the legend. It might have been in the legend. I'm sorry, I missed that. Because I'm a small little rail fence person. The black steel edge is nice, and I think that you'd put that in anyway, just so it doesn't invade, the grass doesn't get into the plantings and the plantings into the grass. But with this having its issues, I think usually we require small, low rail fence, so everything gets established and doesn't get mowed over. I agree with staff as far as the cinefoil and the. I'm not a big fan of that. I think that more woody indigenous. I remember the site when it was originally permitted, and it was mostly invasives, but there were a lot of substantial pines and things like that. So I think that we should follow staff's recommendations, and she'll work with Marie. But again, low fence, and it's not a self-imposed. We require 3-year monitoring, so that's not really self-imposed. We usually also impose it. So only for the reasons that the last property last plantings had a failure. Other than that, that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you. Pat?
No comments, thank you.
Peter,
No comments.
Betsy,
I have a comment. It looks like, so just roughly 5,000 square feet of plantings. How many trees are you adding?
Don't believe there are any trees planted in the original restoration, in the original restoration area. So we did not propose any trees within that area. Although I do believe Maria, aren't we planting some trees along the property line?
So in the original restoration, Betsy, there were not any trees planted. However, on the east lot line, I believe there were 3, I could be wrong on the head count, cedar trees that were planted that have struggled. Again, I didn't do the original plantings. I can say in 25 years, I've lost 5 plants and trees. So I must be doing something right. And it's not that anyone did something wrong, but we have our methodology of how we do it. We're highly successful. So even on the bushy sycamore, I have every confidence if it's placed in the right location and it's armored by the other native woody shrubs, it'll be fine. And
Well, is
also
this-
to answer,
No,
so hopefully that answers your question.
Not entirely. So this is labeled on here. Oh, so this is restoration planning. Yeah, all right. Yes, it does. But I would like to see some cedar trees. I mean, there's some beautiful ones just down the way. So maybe whatever ones were put in there were too big to start, to start their life in such a harsh environment.
Attorney Keough, do you want to speak to that?
Well, it sounds like we're glad to get all these comments and suggestions. But it would seem that, we need to, I'd ask for a continuance after we finish so we can huddle back up and incorporate any changes that need to be made in the plan. But I understand that there's some question on what we posed for the plantings and some suggestions for things that might be more in keeping with what you're looking for. And we'd like to have the opportunity to give that some thought and to put that to the plan. We certainly understand the concerns of what happened in the past. But that's again, one of the reasons for the 3-year monitoring. We look to see what happens. And if it still doesn't work, obviously, then it has to get ripped out and something new put in. But I think we need to take a look at this in light of some of these comments. I think some of them we probably could have anticipated, but at this point, we'd like the chance to make sure we have everything we need and a plan that's submitted to you that incorporates everything. So it's not just by terms of the meeting.
Betsy, I wanted to also add that the cedar trees that struggled were actually a smaller size. And again, I didn't plant them, so I can't vouch for what was or wasn't done. But typically when we plant them, we have a series in our methodology of how we plant. I've never lost a cedar tree. They're one of the hardiest plants out there. And, certainly along that lot line, we would be happy to add some additional cedar trees.
Yeah, a little cluster.
Sure.
That's all. Thanks, Jamie.
thank you. Maria, did you say one or a couple of those trees are dying or dead?
Correct. They were in poor shape.
Or they need to be replaced?
Potentially, I'd have to look at them and evaluate. And I'd be happy to do that with Jen and Alyssa if they'd like to do that. Make a determination.
All right, Courtney.
So the St. John's wort, I'm not familiar with it that much, but there seem to be lots of varieties. I assume the variety that you're picking grows to be like 7 feet tall. it's not the kind that you prune every spring before it gets to be 3 feet?
This shrub will not need to be pruned, and it's prolific in its blossoming. It goes really from like May to October. So it creates great food for birds and wildlife, and also sends a lot of runners. So you end up with a dense thicket.
Yeah, I mean,
which is-
there's a variety, a bush variety that grows to be about 7 feet tall. It's a native to this area. Is that what you're picking?
We have listed on here Hypericum densiflorum, and the height on that, is more based on your site conditions. We do have a lot of wind here, so we may have what we call wind pruning, where
I'm
things
looking at
grow.
something called bushy St. John's wort, Hypericum densiforum. Is that what
Correct.
you're using?
Yes.
Thank you.
Anything else, Courtney?
I'm done.
Okay.
I don't want to echo anymore.
Kevin?
No questions, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function?
Nothing in the public chat, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Only that the cinquefoil was buffered between both bayberry and beach plum and a few roses the last time, and it didn't survive. So I don't have very high hopes that the cinquefoil is going to survive this time.
All right.
Can I add another comment?
Yes.
So Jen, I just wanted to address a couple of things. So we want the opportunity. It's going to be in a different location. It's up by the lawn. It's not further down near the ocean where it previously was.
It wasn't
And,
in the ocean.
and obviously, if it has problems thriving, we'd be more than happy to replace it with a different species. The other thing I wanted to add about the beach grass, we're not adding any new beach grass. What we're doing as we excavate out some of the beach grass to plant our shrubs, we're taking that beach grass and replanting the 2 paths that previously were not there. Because it's it's continuous with what is down there by the riprap. And beach grass obviously is the hardiest
Okay.
planting for that area.
In a dune. We all established this is not a dune, it's a coastal bank. And
Correct.
second of all, what was planted there, including existing mature bayberry stands, are missing. There's beach grass and lawn. So all the native shrubs were removed and either lawn or beach grass was planted. And we would like, the staff is recommending that a coastal bank community be planted back. And last time I checked, a native coastal banking community did not consist of cinquefoil or rose or anything else like that. So, I mean, we can go round and round, Maria, which is what we were doing when we had the discussions with you and Nate, when we were trying to, kind of work with you to nail down a planting plan for the enforcement. So I'd like to remind the board that this is an enforcement issue. The board, has the right to request what they would like. The last planting plan did have some troubles. There are monitoring reports on that. But this site was altered and the bayberry should be replaced. The beach grass should be removed. I mean, we gave compliance on the beach grass down by the revetment, and we'll honor that. But the rest of the beach grass on the site, you can look at the photo, you can look at the series of aerials. The staff would be happy to provide the board a series of the colored aerials over the last couple of years. So you yourselves see changes on that site.
May I make a comment to that? I actually performed the site inspection for Homes on McGrath for the certificate of compliance in 2017. We do have some site photographs, plus we have the the Blue Flags report about the removal of some of the shrubs that were planted that did not survive and replacing with beach grass. And in that report, it talks about 2,400 plugs of beach grass that were planted in replacement for shrubs that were planted. And that does not include the area down near the riprap. The riprap beach grass already existed at the time the buffer plantings were installed. Those were part of the previous permit for the riprap. So what I'm saying is, at the time of compliance, there was beach grass in the remaining portion of the buffer landward of that area of beach grass against the riprap.
So, but Jeff, so you would like us to honor the compliance we gave, but everything else can be removed? That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Yep. That's gonna be a sticky one. So regarding the steel edging versus single rail fence, I would concur what Maury said about both. The steel edging, if you want it to delineate the edge of the grass, but the single rail fence is a great deterrent against mowing, and it also would provide an avenue for landscape lighting to be attached. So something to think about. And as Maria, I think you know that, the single rail fence is pretty unobtrusive. I mean, it's only 10 or 12 inches off the ground. So it's not, people hear fence and they think it's 3 foot high or 10 foot high.
No, I understand that. Would it help to offer that we will be mowing in the backyard? And my guys, absolutely no. You
No,
don't get.
that doesn't help.
Yeah.
I didn't know if that offered any reassurance during that 3-year monitoring period.
You don't know if vendors are going to change either. So.
And you don't know what's going to happen after that 3-year monitoring period.
So. Mr. Kehoe.
I would respectfully request for a continuance so we can take into account all that's been said tonight and make the adjustments necessary to our plans.
Okay, so there's on my part, a 2-part question. One is what date we have available, which John's looking for, and how much time do you think you would need?
I would suggest, Mr. Chair, that once you have a date, we'll take the first date that you have available and open. And I heard from the earlier meeting, you just put something on and it was because it was very short and sweet. So if that isn't available, we'll go to the next meeting.
At this point, Mr. Chairman, we do have room on the March 2nd. We only have we'll have 2. This shouldn't, I mean, if we can come to some, or at least a close consensus between staff and the applicant's representatives, I don't see why this couldn't go on March 2nd.
That would be acceptable to us, Mr. Chair.
So I'll make a motion at the request of the applicant. We'll continue this to March 2nd.
And Mr. Chairman, Attorney Kehoe, I'm sure that Jeff and Maria and Nate will tell you, but this board likes everything for their continued hearings a week in advance. So we'd have that information in our hands on, I think it's the 23rd.
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you.
And hopefully that this would be a fairly short, won't be as short as the last one that I was talking about, but still should be pretty, as long as everybody understands what we're looking for. And you don't have to agree with it, but just so you know what we're looking for, you provide that information or a reason why you don't want to do it. And then it doesn't have to be belabored, you know what I mean? So, all right, we have a motion and a second to continue this till March 2nd. If there's no further comments or questions, I don't see any, so I'm calling for the vote. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Pat,
RSI.
Peter.
Walsh, aye.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until March 2nd. Thank you, Mr. Kehoe, Mr. Johnson, Nate, Maria.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Chairman. Thank you.
Jeff, is this your last hearing tonight?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, yeah.
First
All
and last.
Nate, how about you?
Yes.
This is your last one? Okay. I'm moving everybody back in attendees, Mr.
Jeff,
Chairman.
great to see you.
Jeff's still with us.
I know, I'm trying to move him back. It's on a delay, Bets.
Okay. Next up. One was continued. The next one we moved around. Therefore, Seacoast Shores Association, Inc., 0 Edgewater Drive East, map 41, parcel 03, 000K, 001A, East Falmouth, Mass. For permission to conduct beach nourishment and annual beach profiling to monitor the success of the proposed beach nourishment. Ken,
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have promoted Cameron Larson, Stan Humphreys. Thought I grabbed Dan Frawley. Cameron, am I promoting Mr. Frawley back up this week?
Dan Frawley and Mark Ryan should also be
Okay, Mark Ryan, thank you.
promoted. Thank you.
all right. Before you start, Betsy, quorum, please.
Well, it's a little bit of a problem because this was the time that I wasn't given lists. So the thing that I've been given doesn't show anything. So everybody has to go. Maury, were you on this one? Yes.
Betsy, do you have the quorum for 60 Pheasant?
Yep.
It's the same quorum. It's the same night.
Jamie, Kevin, Maury, Peter, Betsy, Pat.
Oh, I'm not on.
Not court.
Not Courtney.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks, Jen.
Courtney, take a break.
I will.
All right, Mr. Larson, you're up, sir.
All right, great. Thank you. Good evening, Commission. For the record, it's Cameron Larson with ECR. Also with me from ECR is Stan Humphreys, our coastal geologist, and Mark Ryan and Dan Frawley, members of the Seacoast Shores Association. We were previously in front of the Commission last month on the 19th with a proposal for beach nourishment at the association's property off Edgewood Drive East. Just to quickly refresh the Commission, the association has a property to the east of Bayside Drive on Eel Pond that's utilized as a recreational beach area. The proposal is to nourish the southern half of that beach with clean, compatible sand to provide an adequate area for the residents to use and enjoy the beach. So since that last meeting, we have several revisions to the plan. Most of them housekeeping items, but we did add the address to the plan. We included a note regarding land containing shellfish. We added the license numbers for the abutting groin and revetment, and we also revised the actual volume of nourishment that's going to be required. We had previously proposed 530 cubic yards of nourishment.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Larson, is there a plan that you can share?
Yep, absolutely.
Thank you.
All right, so pulling up that plan right here.
Thank you very much.
Not a problem. So as I was saying, we had previously proposed 530 cubic yards of nourishment. But in essence, the association's only going to require 360 cubic yards for what they're needing for this project. So that is 170 cubic yards less than what was previously proposed. I do want to point out that that is the least amount of sand that's ever been proposed for nourishment here. Past approvals have included upwards of 750 cubic yards. Beyond these plan revisions, we've also revised our monitoring plan. This was again based on discussions at the last meeting, mostly centered around the question as to where the sand is going. So just to go back to a little bit to the 2014 approval, the last approval, which included 500 cubic yards of nourishment. There were similar concerns that the commission had at that point. More specifically, though, were concerns that this sand might be impacting areas to the south. At that point, the commission conditioned the permit to include annual beach profiling. ECR has completed the profiling at this site since 2018. All that data has been provided in our submittal. And basically reviewing that, that profiling data, we've concluded that it does appear that there's a net transport more or less in the northerly direction, and that some of this sand that's eroding in this area may be accumulating towards the Bayside Drive area of this site. At this point now, we're kind of now staff and the commission's expressed concerns about the sediment transporting and impacting possibly the channel between Bayside Drive and Washburn Island. So I can pull up something a little different here. Here's a map that we've created. So we are continuing to propose the annual beach nourishment. We'll stick to the 5 transects that we've used previously, shown on this map in red. But we're also proposing to expand the monitoring to include an annual bathymetric survey of that channel area. Now, a lot of this has been coordinated with Dan and Mark and staff, who were able to meet and get together since that last meeting and identify the most appropriate areas for this bathymetric survey. So based on those discussions, that's what you're seeing shown here in yellow on the plan. So the association has reached out to several firms at this point to get some cost estimates for this bathymetric profiling. It is a significant expense for the association, but they are willing to pursue that on an annual basis. As much as the commission wants to know what's happening in this area, the association, wants to get a better understanding of what's going on in this area as well. So just in summary to that, we will be continuing the beach profiling on an annual basis, and we've now expanded to include this bathymetric profiling, which will include an annual summary provided to the commission once that surveying's been completed. Now, lastly, the association has discussed this, and they are willing to agree that this will be the final time that off-site sand will be used for nourishment at this site. So the 370 cubic yards will provide, a usable beach for the association at this point. But future nourishment will be coordinated to include dredge material from the town. Mark and Dan have already been coordinating with the harbor master on this, and they are aware of some future scheduling of dredge work. So, that's something that they'd like to piggyback on and take advantage of in the future. So just to summarize all those revisions, we've made the plan revisions. We have a reduction in the actual volume of beach nourishment. We're expanding the monitoring, and we're also agreeing to use off-site sand this last time here and dredge material in the future. So that summarizes what we've done to address the commission and staff's concerns. I guess I'd like to pass this on to Stan Humphreys from ECR if you have anything else to add. Otherwise, we can open it up to questions. At this point, I'll stop sharing my screen.
Thank you, Cam. Stan?
Good evening, commissioners. At this point, I don't have anything else to add, other than the fact that we also recognize that the erosion at the south end of the revetment is exposing the toe. We would hate to get into a situation like many other revetments being undermined and needing additional rock. I think sand would be better at the site than trying to expand the revetment, the toe of the revetment vertically. That's it for now. Be available for question.
Thank you. Mr. Ryan, do you have anything to add?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Yes, thank you. I just appreciate the time that Jennifer took with Dan and I to sit down and try to work out a compromise. We heard the concern of the commission during the last hearing. We are concerned as well and is going. We don't want to be back here every so often adding sand. It's an expense that's totally on the Seacoast Shores residents. So we appreciate the thought put into this by Jennifer and the recommendation to do this additional profile bathymetric survey. I think it goes a long way with satisfying the commission's concerns and also help Seacoast Shores maintain the beach that they have, which they've had for the last 75 years. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So I did meet with Mr. Frawley and Mr. Ryan, I believe the day before the storm, to talk about it. Mr. Frawley is well aware of the staff's concern about where the sand is going and how it's impacting adjacent resources. Short of monitoring the Eel River and Childs River itself, where it goes into Childs River, we're not really going to know where the sand goes. I mean, the question's been asked for years, where is this sand going? So we thought kind of the pinch point was where the staff's and quite frankly, the harbor master's concern is for navigation and everything else. So we thought that might be an appropriate place to start monitoring to see if the sand goes there. It may go north. Stan, being the coastal geologist, is that a big enough footprint to monitor to find out where the sand's going, or do you think it was too narrow?
No, I think that that's
putting you on the
appropriate.
spot to cost your client more money in monitoring, but I'm,
No, I think that northernmost profile could go over to the adjacent shoreline. The graphic kind of showed it ending before it went over to the other shoreline.
So Karen, if you could put that graphic back up, please.
Yep, not a problem. I'll share that right now.
And we were just trying to figure out something. So that northern, which one do you mean, Stan, the yellow?
This year.
The northern yellow, that's right. Yep. Cam has it there.
All right, so go all the way over.
Correct.
Okay.
Let's try to capture any of that.
Yeah, so, I think that's fine. Something in the supplemental, okay, you can stop sharing, Cameron, thank you. So, I mean, if the board was, leaning towards allowing this nourishment at this point, definitely the staff would say we do need to start, looking at that channel as well, seeing where the sand goes. I know Betsy, at the last hearing, you maybe didn't expect too much concern with it. But
I'm not concerned right at the pinch point. At the pinch point, the water's going to move the fastest.
Move it really fast, yeah. So that's why I'm like, should we shift that up? Should we shift it down?
No, I agree with Stan. I mean, this way you ought to be able to see if you're having any accumulation above or below that pinch point. But, part of that might be depending on what kind of storms you might have. I mean, if there's a coastal storm and a surge of water up, then there could be a slug of sand that goes up. And under normal conditions, it can trickle down year after year. But this is worth trying. I mean,
yeah, it's worth a shot to see if we can capture some information. The only other comment I have, well, maybe one of many, Mr. Chairman, I haven't decided yet, is the comments that this will be the last time an upland sand source will be used, but they're working with the town. I'm well aware that the association is has been having conversations with the harbor master to use some of the dredge material coming out of Eel River West, bringing it up to Eel River East and depositing it on the beach. Now, how are you going to permit that? I mean, that's going to have to come through a permit as well. If we permit this, then we're going to have to re-permit how much sand is coming out of that dredging project. So Cameron, how do you propose to permit the dredge material? It's not going to be an open beach nourishment NOI.
No, yeah, we're fully aware of that. And I think that, at the time of we're proposing the 370 cubic yards through this permit. Any future nourishment, that's going to involve the dredge material will be back in front of the commission to get that approval.
Okay. Well, I mean, again, my one big concern is where is all the sand going? So nobody really has an answer to that. So the board's just going to have to determine whether or not we want to, allow this and have them do that extra monitoring, have that transect go across, as Stan had said, and try to capture that and maybe get an idea where the sand is going. Maybe shift that up. Take that box. Betsy said that water is moving through there pretty quick, and maybe shift it up north or south. I don't know.
Good starting point, no?
It's a starting point. Short of saying no, there's no beach nourishment allowed, it's a starting point.
You're gonna prove or disprove that it's landing there. So that's all right. Anything else, Mrs. Lincoln?
Only that we've received a number of emails that we forwarded to the board, and you all have received those regarding this project.
Melissa, do you have anything to add?
Yes, thank you. Just a couple technical things that I mentioned in the staff report. I didn't see a PLS stamp on the plan. So if we could obtain one of those and send a revised copy with that stamp, that would be great. We did speak with Peter McConaughey today, who's the director of the DPW, and it seems like there's a more recent system of elevation data out there than the 1929 datum. And he suggested, I think there's some sort of conversion that exists. If we could update that on the plan, that would be preferred. And there were a couple of questions about the existing licenses and interim licenses on the revetment and groins. If you happen to have a copy of those and can send them to us, we'll save them to our files. That was all I had.
Thank you. All right. Commissioner comments. Betsy.
The only comment I have, and Cameron, did you do this plan?
I did not design the plan. That was Atlantic Design, Rich Tabazinski.
Well, my question is, you have an approximate property line per Plan Book 77, page 1123. And I'm just wondering what that book is and when that book was produced.
Let me, I could share my screen one more time here.
Sure.
We did add a date to the plan, Betsy, to that note for your, we did discuss that last time. This was recorded on April 15th, 1947.
Oh.
Okay.
Yesterday.
Yeah, it was just yesterday, Kevin. I agree. Okay, that's helpful. I mean, in 1947, there was a big wide beach there. I mean, that's where presumably the property line was the edge of the water, right? Wouldn't you think? Cameron, I'm asking you.
Yeah, I don't know if we can, say for sure that that's the property line. We did look at some aerial imagery. It was inconclusive. We tried to find some historical imagery that we could match up. But it was inconclusive. So yeah, it may have been something like that, but we couldn't find an answer for that.
Yeah, I'm just, yeah,
And then the
Just
revetment
wondering-
went in, Betsy.
huh?
I said, and then the revetment went in.
Well, the
And then
revet,
the beach started to erode.
wasn't the revetment there in 1950? I think somebody gave us pictures that showed it in 1950.
So if that was a recorded property line in 47 and the revetment went in like late 40s, early 50s. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well. Thanks.
That's it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any more questions.
Okay. Kevin,
Other than to point out that in 1945, I was, I think no, I was born. God. Believe me, I think you need a newer dateline. Okay,
Oh, they have a new dateline.
what is it?
It's on the map.
Yeah,
It's what Cameron gave us.
yeah, okay.
The problem with
No
any
more
of these,
questions. I'll
the
shut up.
problem with any of these lines, it was very helpful, whoever it was who sent us a PowerPoint with all those pictures. The problem is the picture is one snapshot on one day, and you don't know whether the tide's high or low. And you don't know what happened, a month later. So it's useful to look at these aerials. I mean, Stan, I'm sure you do a lot of aerial history in these things, but there are gaps and you don't know what happens in between.
That's right. Yeah.
all right, moving on. Maury,
Well, yeah, I think, as Jen said, we have to start somewhere. And, we know where Minot Sand went into Bourne's Pond. And we know what happened there. But, we do have to start somewhere. I'm really not, I'm looking at, less cubic yards of sand, upland sand. We still have land containing shellfish, and I agree with Betsy, it's moving fast through there, but it's gonna end up somewhere up or down.
Up or down.
And, yeah, I mean, we don't know. And maybe this is a good way to find out, and then the next time around, we say no more nourishment, because now we know where it's going and what it's doing and what it's impacting. So you can't really, we don't know. So do we want to take the leap and say, let's go with it? And it is a reduction in the sand, so at least that's a good thing. But the data will give us some future knowledge of what we're going to do and how we're going to permit or not permit it. And I think maybe that's a good way to approach it at this point. And I'm not sure, is it still true, Jen, if you take town dredge sand, that then the beach becomes public?
That's federal, Betsy. That's going to be up to the town. The town nourishes private beaches right now and private association beaches with dredge spoils every year.
Okay. All right, I just in case, I didn't want them to, commit to something that they wish they didn't in the future. And then the last thing is, as I said on a couple last hearings, on the revisions, I've just been noticing it's per conservation's comments. We really need to have what the revision was. It just makes, because, if the staff report is not included in the file, and I'm glad, and you did all the things we asked. I'm not, but just for now on, or in the future, just please put what the revision is: land containing shellfish, less cubic yards, reducing the cubic yards. It just keeps it easier for anybody to follow the map, so to speak. So, but thank you.
And in the future, Cameron, as Alyssa pointed out, our director of DPW does want to see these plans in the NAVD and NAD data. Because if we ever need to send our survey crew out there to check anything, they don't want to have to do the conversion. So we'd like to see all of the plans in that updated format.
No problem. I did, after getting the staff comments today, I reached out immediately to Atlantic Design to make those revisions. I haven't heard back from them, but I'm sure they'll, we'll coordinate that ASAP.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
We know what happens when people get the wrong datum in these areas. We've had costly boat ramps.
Very.
Boat ramps rebuilt.
All right. Pat,
No comments, thank you.
Peter?
I'm just commenting, on one of the comments from the public saying that they were concerned about any agreement to not use upland sand and only going forward dredging spoils. I'm not sure if that commitment is required, in my opinion, at this present time. No other comments.
Thank you.
I agree with you, Peter.
Yep. And Cameron, I know Jen said it, you agreed, but I just want to say it one more time, just to make sure it's clear that just because the town does dredging doesn't automatically give you permission to renourish. So it does have to come under a separate and additional NOI. Just want to make sure that's clear.
That's clear.
Jen, is there anything in the public chat function?
Not at this point, Mr. Chairman. Now, Cameron, and I didn't see it, I know you've reached out to companies to do the bath surveys. You haven't come up with a monitoring plan or an actual, just what you've put on that. So if the board allows us to go forward prior to any sand being on there, we're going to need, obviously a plan showing exactly where that monitoring is going, including directly across the channel, as Stan had suggested, as well as who you're contracting with to do that work. Just because of the the lack of monitoring that has been done in the past. I know that the association has done a great job since 2018, but just so that we're aware of that and we have that grid down.
We can certainly provide that, not a problem.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And there has to be an initial, there has to be a existing condition, an initial monitoring before anything's added there.
Added to the beach. You need a baseline to go by.
Right.
Absolutely. Our schedule of monitoring will include that.
Thank you.
All right. Is there anything further?
Can I make a motion?
Please do.
Make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Carla Hawk, second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to close the hearing, take it under advisement. If there's nothing else. Perfect. Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin.
O'Brien, aye.
Maury.
Carla Hawk's aye.
Pat.
Harris, aye.
Peter.
Walsh, aye.
It is unanimous. We have closed the hearing. Thank you,
very much.
everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, great. Thank you, Commission.
Courtney can come back, I think.
No, he's not on the, well,
No?
yes, Courtney, you can come back, but you're not on the next one either.
I'm not on Goldman.
No, but don't go away because you're on some others.
Oh, I understand. I'll just continue my break.
There
Yeah.
you go. All right, next up, Andrew Goldman, trustee, Andrew Goldman Trust Agreement of 2001, 60 Pheasant Lane, East Falmouth, Mass. For permission to construct a fixed pier extending into Green Pond. Jen?
Yeah, let me find Mike Borselli. There he is. Mr. Chairman, I have promoted Mike Borselli up to talk about his continued project.
Mr. Borselli, you're up, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the commission, again, Mike Borselli, Falmouth Engineering, and I represent the applicant, Andrew Goldman. I would, with your permission, share my screen.
Yes, sir.
I'm in trouble here. Hold on. There we go. Almost had a technical difficulty. First thing I'd like to do is refer you to the revision block. It's very specific about the revisions we made to the plan. We revised the float and ramp size, and we revised the labels on the profile. So I will now direct you to the revisions. There was some conversation about the overall area of the float at the original hearing. We had not included the stem portion that accepts the bottom of the ramp in the overall float area. We've since reduced the size of the main float to 5.5 by 16, with the stem measuring 3 by 4. So the total area of this float is now 100 square feet, which is the maximum that you allow. While we were at it, we did a minor adjustment to the actual ramp size itself. I think it was 3 by 16. We made it 3 by 17 to make sure that at low tide, the wheels don't fall off the back of the float, because that's never a good thing. And the final revision we made to the plan was we adjusted some of the labeling on the profile. I think this was in response to a comment from Commissioner Howell-Hawks. We've shown the public access in a place. I'm hoping that's the bark of agreement with me. The public access is shown now under the stairs. I have maintained a note here that specifies that there's 5 feet from mean high water to the bottom of the stringer. That's simply a requirement by DEP. But to discourage public access through this strip of marsh, which was the, we're indicating public access would be here. And of course, the public could always make access seaward of the salt marsh as well. And I think the final issue was comments from staff. Alyssa had made comments about the integrity of the existing buffer that was originally required when the order of conditions was issued for the house. We made an appointment, and Alyssa came out to meet with me and my client to review some photos that he had from back in the day when he acquired the property, and we did a comparing of the photos to what's out there. And I think we concurred that the buffer has been maintained and there wasn't any alterations to the buffer. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mike. Jen?
Mike, when you say you lengthened the ramp, but it didn't lengthen the overall length of the dock, correct?
Correct. It just lengthened the ramp in it so it lands in a different place on the float. The leading
Okay,
edge.
I'm looking at your old plan on my computer. I'm like, yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, thank you.
Did I count down? Yeah. Unless
You look so skeptical.
I'm all set, thank you.
All right. Commissioner comments. Kevin?
No comments, Mr. Chairman.
Sorry. Can you hear me? You're muted.
We can't hear you, Maury.
Now you can't hear me. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The only thing, yeah, and thank you, Mike, for doing that for the public access. And maybe when you're building it, you put a board across there so they don't go across the marsh. They'll make them go up through that way.
I
But
see,
thank you
yeah.
for the, thank you very much for that.
And do you like my revision block?
I did.
Is that an,
Oh,
he's looking for an attaboy, Maury.
Those are hard to come by from Maury, so.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Uh,
Yep. All right, Pat,
No comments, thanks.
Peter,
Mike, good job. I only have a lingering question. Alyssa last time made some remarks about removing kayaks from the beach, and you didn't mention that.
Yeah, we did. There were some things on the beach that were removed. In fact, we removed them prior to Alyssa's arrival to the site meeting to demonstrate good faith.
Okay, no further questions.
not man. Betsy,
No questions. Thanks.
all right. Jen, is everything in the public chat function, please?
No, Mr. Chairman.
And I'll make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Carlo Hawk, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to close the hearing. If there's nothing further. All right, Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Carlo Hawk's eye.
Pat,
RSI.
Peter.
Walsh, aye.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Mr. Borselli.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Commission.
Mike, are you done tonight?
Nope, I have one more amendment.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay. I'll put you back in attendees.
Thank you.
All right, next up. Blank 375 Seacoast Shores Boulevard and 29 Linwood Terrace, East Falmouth, Mass. For permission to raise RAZE, the existing garage, and to construct a new garage in the same footprint, to install a new driveway, to construct a new deck, and to install mitigation plantings. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I am promoting George Collins up to present his project. George, are you there?
Okay, before you start, Betsy, the quorum is everyone, correct?
We haven't started this, so yes, it's everyone. This is the
Thank you.
first hearing.
Yep, there's Courtney, off break.
Sorry, I was putting chickens to bed.
George, is there anybody else I'm promoting up for your project?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay, great.
You're up, sir.
Good evening. For the record, George Collins from Collins Civil Engineering Group, representing Robert LeBlanc at 375 Seacoast Shores Boulevard and 29 Linwood Terrace. If I was going to share my screen, if that would be
Sure.
at this point. So this rectangular or square area here, that is 375 Seacoast Shores Boulevard. This area here is 29 Linwood Terrace. Prior to applying for this, submitting this application, we attempted to combine the lots by putting them in common ownership. Subsequently, based on guidance from town council and some communications from the conservation office, we went back and forth and generated some documents, recorded them at the registry of deeds, effectively combining these two lots to the satisfaction of town council, perhaps. And then, so the primary concern at that point was just making sure that the two lots were in fact combined, because we're proposing the mitigation in this area on Linwood Terrace. And we just wanted to make sure that that property couldn't be conveyed independently of the Seacoast Shores Boulevard property. So I'm just going to zoom in a little bit here. Actually, so this is the existing garage here. they're gonna take down that garage and reconstruct a garage with a second floor in the same location. And I'm sorry, let's see, here we go. This is the existing deck here. And let's see, the new deck is going to come out further and wrap around here. There's also a deck and stairs coming down off of the second floor of the new garage. We did the math. I did all the math. These two areas represent the supplemental areas that have been added to the property. And I have my calculations on mitigation requirements in the zone B, which resulted in this 2,294 square feet of mitigation, which is this area here, and approximately 244 plantings. We are taking down, there is one tree coming down right here. I proposed 3 trees in this location. Let's see, where are we? We spec'd out Tupelo trees to replace the one tree that was taken down. We do have erosion control proposed along this area just for the actual construction. Then I also propose erosion control along the perimeter of the mitigation area. That's a composting silt sock. And I apologize, I probably should have started with this, but the bordering vegetated wetland is shown in green, the 50-foot buffer is shown in orange, and then the 100-foot buffer is shown in pink. So the couple of comments that did come up with the revised staff comments, Brooke Monroe, my botanist, she specifically talked to her about providing the DEP data sheets. She did amend part of her report per the request of staff, but she specifically told me that she did not feel like the data sheets were appropriate or would provide any real information to the commission. So she essentially declined to generate those data sheets. If that's a sticking point with the commission, I can reapproach her about that, but essentially she just did not feel like that the data sheets were appropriate or applicable for this particular application. I can possibly get some clarification on that. Another item that came up with on the staff report. Let's see, I have the, let's see, I apologize. I'm going to see if I can bring up the staff report here. Oh, here we go. So this part of the staff report, there's a small tree and some plantings in the proposed mitigation area. So this area here, we're looking at, this photo is looking facing west. So when that photo was taken, see, I'm sorry. I believe she was standing right about here, looking straight out into this vegetated area here. So
Are we supposed to be looking at a photo?
I'm actually, I just went. Do you see the plan?
I see the plan.
Yeah, so I kind of went from one to the other. Where are we at? So this is the photo. This.
I can't see the photo.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let's see, screen sharing. I apologize. Let's see. I'm trying to figure out how to. Let's see, screen share. Here we go. Sorry about that. So this vegetated area here, we're facing, the house is to behind us, and we're facing west when we're looking at this particular photo. I just want to show you what how that is represented on the plan right now. And what that is the photo is taken approximately standing here, again, facing west. This vegetation is the area that was brought up in the comment. So I think the concern was that I was proposing mitigation in that vegetated area, but I am not. It may not have been 100% clear the way it was staked out in the field. We actually went back out in the field today just to verify things to make sure that we are not, in fact, removing vegetation in the proposed mitigation area. So that area is in fact available for the plantings as presented. And then the last comment, let's see here, the last comment based on the 2922 comment references town council about the combining of the lots. And so I started out with that, but the final comment was that on the request of Frank Duffy, town council covenant was signed merging the two properties. So that was the document that was requested to combine these two lots to the satisfaction of the commission or to the satisfaction of town council. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions that the commission or staff may have at this time.
Thank you. Yes.
George, you can stop sharing.
I think he's trying to.
Okay, there we go.
Thank you.
Sorry about that, George.
No problem.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the reasons to continue, George said that is because they were proposing the mitigation on a separate lot. We consulted Frank Duffy and Frank, we actually reached out to George. He said through the deed, the lots were combined and Frank wasn't comfortable with that. So that's what the continuance was for, was to produce this covenant. So that satisfied our town council, which satisfies the staff. I'll let Alyssa address any concerns about the area that she was standing on, as opposed to where like her and George were looking at the mitigation. If that can be hashed out, that's great. I don't have any other concerns with it. George, I'm not going to hold your project up on the data sheets, but next time, tell Ms. Monroe I would like those data sheets. It is in the Falmouth Wetlands regulations that delineating a freshwater wetland does need to be done a certain way, and I'm not quite convinced that, you know, I'm not convinced, but I can't be sure that that was done in accordance with our regulations. So
yeah.
Tell her if she has any other questions, she can reach out to me, but I won't hold your project up this time, but next time I want those sheets.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Not a problem. And I'll let Alyssa address the mitigation.
Alyssa?
Yes, thank you. In terms of the data sheets, if it alleviates any concerns, I did my best. It all seemed to line up. So it all seemed to match the delineation that we wanted. George, thank you for clarifying the photo. When I was out there, that stake, looking at the photo sort of to the right of the tree, it had the word mitigation on it. Can't remember the other word on there, but it looked like it was more of the area, so I just got a little confused. But thank you for clarifying. And I'm sorry if you missed them, but there's actually 2 more staff comments on the back of that page there. One was just a note, just saying we received the revised copy of Brooke Monroe's letter that removed the septic upgrade portion. So thank you for that. And I just had initial concerns with the area of the proposed trees. When I was out there, there were definitely some taller trees with more overhanging branches just in terms of canopy, I wasn't entirely sure that 3 trees could fit there and thrive. There weren't stakes out there marking where the 3 trees are going to be planted. I was thinking maybe one could be moved to the middle area. It seems like there could be some room over there to accommodate that, but that was just my suggestion. Those are all my comments.
If I may, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
One thing that we could do, if that vegetated area that I pointed out, that is actually, it's not very well established, and if it made sense, we could possibly place that the third tree in the middle of that vegetated area. It's a very, very low lying. Actually, if you don't mind, I could share that again. Where are we here? We could, this is, it's very, very sparse in here. I mean, I think we could possibly plant that one tree there, or unless we could agree to just an alternate location for that third tree. And I apologize, is it a 3-to-1 mitigation requirement for tree removal? Because we're taking down one tree and I proposed a replacement of putting in 3 in its place. Excuse my ignorance, but is it a 3-to-1 replacement?
No, it's a sliding scale. It's caliper inch or 1 by 1.
Okay.
So if you have a 12-inch tree, you replace with enough little trees that equal 12 caliper inch.
Okay, yeah. So what we're proposing is appropriate then. The 3-to-1 at 2 inches. The 2-inch trees at 3-to-1 is appropriate because it's like a 6-inch tree that we're taking down. If that makes sense. So again, I think that's the one last thing would be just agreeing upon if we were to maybe make some field adjustments and select the appropriate location for that third tree.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, we can let the board discuss if that's a good location.
I'll stop sharing.
That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. All right. Pat,
No comments, thank you.
Peter? Peter, I don't know if you heard me.
No comments.
Okay. Betsy?
What's the square footage of mitigation?
Let's see here.
2,294 square feet.
Well, that means there should be an additional 3 trees for that also. There's 1 tree for every 1,000 foot of mitigation.
Betsy, the sites may not support an additional 3 trees. We can try to field adjust it when we go out there and put it in for the mitigation area, but I don't know if the site's going to support it.
Could the trees be within that mitigation area?
Yeah, we can do that.
So you can actually put the tree in the middle of the mitigation area.
Yeah, it's part of the woody vegetation.
Yeah, but then the mitigation area, Betsy's gonna have to expand out to the lawn because we put that kind of circle around it.
And I apologize. What is that? What is the circumference of that circle again? Or around it? When you
Maury, what do we usually do?
You're on mute.
Sorry, the canopy of the tree. So, as if it's a 2.5-inch caliper, it's probably only has a 6-foot radius. So just think of when you look up, you don't want to plant anything underneath that.
But that area takes away.
Then that area has to be added to your woody indigenous lower growing vegetation into the lawn.
Betsy, if we're going to be putting 3 trees in the mitigation area, then I think that the tree that's being removed, you could only, 1 would be appropriate.
I didn't hear a word you said because you were all frozen.
Oh, I'm sorry. So.
Well, it's not
he's
your fault.
proposing-
As far as I'm concerned, that where the trees go can be decided in the field with a field visit by the staff.
Okay.
What would we do without staff?
Well, we would be totally lost, Jamie.
Yes, we would. Anything else, Bets?
That's all. Thanks.
And I apologize. So what would the total tree count be? Based off of Jennifer's last comment.
I think that's something that you guys would work out in the field.
Okay.
That's the impression I got. Is that accurate?
Yep,
Yeah.
that's
We'll figure it
fine with
out.
me.
So George will help you with how many and location.
Okay. We'll just show them on
The
the
word
as-
there is help. All right, Courtney.
So talk to me about the data sheets, George. Why is your client unwilling to share those? Why does he feel those aren't relevant to what we're doing?
It was actually Brooke, my botanist. She's been just doing this for 45 years, and I specifically asked her about this, and she just didn't feel that the data sheets were appropriate in this particular application. I'm just telling you what she told me.
Yeah, well,
I
I mean,
specifically asked
our
her.
staff feels they're important and they're
Yeah.
relevant, and so I think you should produce them.
And everybody else has to produce them.
I have an issue. I honestly have an issue with that.
All right, I think he
You
got the
know?
message. Let's
So
not,
I think they gotta produce them. Well, we can have have that whole wetland delineated on our own and charge it for it. I mean,
All
you know,
right.
you follow what I'm saying? So we
Yes.
need that stuff.
Yeah, I apologize. I'm just,
You got that message?
yes, I did. I do receive
Thank
that
you.
message.
I have no other questions.
thank you. Kevin,
I hesitate to say this after the last discussion, but as a word of advice, if you've got a requirement for 2,294 square feet of mitigation area, you could always provide 2,300. And for 6 feet of square feet of mitigation, it seems as though you're trying to be a little more cooperative.
Okay.
Okay? Other than that, no more questions.
Yep.
All
So
right.
in general, I could try to round up to the nearest 100 square feet in the
I
future.
think- No, I'm just, in other words, if you've got some really odd number and you're proposing that exact same odd number, it looks odd. You know, it's not a big deal to just round it off a little.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
Thank you. Sorry for the
Fine.
editorial comment, Mr. Chairman.
not at all. We welcome that. Oh, boy. Maury,
No comment.
all right. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. George, sorry you drew the short straw tonight. You got the wrath of Courtney and Kevin tonight. It's
No,
Kevin,
We'll
what
take,
can I
we'll
tell you?
take care of the trees in the field.
All right.
So should we have a motion?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Let's,
Oh, yeah.
George, as bad as it was, I'm going to make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Carl Hawk, second.
all right. Before anybody changes their mind, we're taking the vote. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Aye. Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Carl Hawk's eye.
Pat,
RSI.
Peter.
Walsh, aye.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Mr. Collins.
Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for your guidance, Jennifer.
Not a problem, George. We'll take care of it.
Come back, George. We're not always this cranky.
You chased George right out of there.
Yeah. All right, request to amend an
George.
existing order of conditions. First up, Francis and Claire Norton, 87 Childs River Road, East Falmouth, Mass. Request to amend the order of conditions for Mass DEP number 25-4606 to permit the removal of a portion of an existing concrete ramp and the reduction of required mitigation plantings. Mr. Borselli.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Again, Mike Borselli, Falmouth Engineering, and I represent the applicant. I would like to share my screen with your permission.
Absolutely.
You may recall this property, 87 Childs River Road. This is the house that burned down, and you issued an order of conditions to allow it to be reconstructed. When they did the plan to reconstruct the house, there was some changes predominantly on the street side that increased the overall impervious surface. And this is the plan that demonstrated that. The impervious surface notes summarized that the plantings that would be required was 378. And at the time, the applicant proposes to round that to 500. And it showed in this green shaded area. If you look at this plan, there's an existing concrete ramp that leads from the house down to the water. It was like an outhaul. It allowed boats to actually be pulled out and stored in the house way back when. And my client has a limited outside area for his extended family and grandchildren to play, and he was trying to find ways to not need to do the mitigation planting. And the only way to not require mitigation is to further decrease the overall impervious surfaces. So that's what we're proposed in this amendment. And with that, I'll share so you can contrast the current plan to this plan. Here is the current plan. You can see on this plan that the applicant is proposing to saw cut this concrete ramp just upslope of these riprap returns and remove this entire section, which is 237 square feet, all in an A zone, and restore it with grass area. You wanted to retain this one section because it still facilitates ease of access to the water to put kayaks in. So the reduction of this impervious surface in an A zone would translate to 3 times that area there, which is 711 square feet. He had originally proposed 500 square feet of mitigation in an area where it really was only required to do 378. So we're hoping that you can approve an amendment that would eliminate a significant area of concrete for this ramp, and therefore there'd be no need for mitigation planting. I had a conversation this afternoon with Jen about what were the licenses for this ramp, and I think I provided the information that demonstrated that ramp was licensed under Chapter 91 at the time that the riprap and the dock were also licensed. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Mike. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. The dock appears on the property in 75. The ramp doesn't appear until the 90s. I did find some old documents in the 80s that unfortunately had the concrete ramp there. So it was built somewhere between 1975 and in the 80s. So that's why it was licensed. I don't believe it, we can't find any permits for it. But it was referenced in some old order of conditions and on plans dated in the mid 80s to late 80s. So, staff would prefer the ramp towards the water be removed. It's unfortunate there's not like any vegetation on the seaward side of the house to help mitigate any pollutants running off into the resource area. And it's further unfortunate that the concrete that's actually in the resource area and produces runoff into the resource area is the concrete they chose to keep. But that's the staff's only comments, and the board can decide what you'd like to do.
Alyssa?
I have no further comments. Thank you.
All right. Peter?
I don't have any comments.
Pat?
No comments, thank you.
Maury?
The only comment I had, it's a tough call, but maybe they could just put a small row of shrubs at the end of the lawn that is connected to the ramp, because that's just a sluice way to go down, for the fertilizer and everything else. And I mean, I know you don't have to do it, but it would, they live there on the water. They might want to make a water improvement to the resource just because they have to live next to it. And that way there, I know they're not supposed to fertilize. We can't really control that, but that way there, at least that slope would be a little more protected from having runoff, even water runoff. But I can understand why they kept the lower part. That's all.
I get that, and if I could just say this, putting the shrubs there would make it difficult to gain access to the remaining part, which is why they wanted to keep it. And keep in mind that removing that section of concrete is going to reduce the runoff that would be going down the slope, because it'll become pervious.
Okay, well, when the ground's frozen, it's not very pervious, but.
That's
anyway,
true.
I know, I'm not gonna die on this hill, but thank you.
Kevin?
No comments, Mr. Chairman.
Courtney?
I have no comments. I'm okay
Betsy?
with ramp.
I agree with Maury that there should be some woody vegetation put in, and it can just be along the riprap.
Or a tree or two?
Or a tree or two. In fact,
anything.
A tree would be great. What about it, Mike?
Well, if I could share my screen again, we are proposing a tree already in this location. And
How about-
proposing trees here is obviously where the view is.
How about a second tree over there too?
With the other eastern over here,
Yeah,
I think
give it
that's,
a little companion.
I think that's reasonable. And that could be a condition that we could live with.
That's helpful. Thank you, Mike. All right, Jen, is there anything in the public chat function?
No.
I'll make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Bird second.
Okay, bear with me. All right, we have a motion and a second to close the hearing. If there's nothing else. All right, Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Hello, Hawks Eye.
Pat,
Harris, aye.
Peter.
Walsh, aye.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Mr. Borselli.
Thank you, Mr.
Bye,
Chairman.
Mike.
Thank you, Commission.
Are
Have
you
a good
finally
day.
done, Mike?
I'm done.
Good night.
Feel bad for you
Hey,
guys. You
Mike.
still got a little bit more to go. Have a good night. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, next up, AC Cape Cod LLC, 36 Palmer Avenue, Falmouth, Mass. Request to amend the order of conditions for Mass DEP number 25-4444 to permit the stabilization of an existing slope and redirection of the runoff into a new stormwater management system. Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have promoted Zach Bazinski up from Bracken Engineering to present the amendments for the auto camp.
Good
Hi,
evening,
Zach.
Hi, Jen. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Again, for the record, Zach Basinski, professional engineer, Bracken Engineering. I'm here this evening on behalf of the property owner and the applicant, Auto Camp. At this time, I'm going to share my screen.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. So as mentioned, this is to address an erosion concern. This was a project that was back in front of the commission back in 2019. At that time, we were granted approval under order of conditions to renovate the former Sippawisset campground. That campground was updated to Auto Camp. And as part of the project, they created a clubhouse on top of a hill. This last fall, during those significant storm events that we had, the roof leader system on the side of the building failed. Wasn't able to handle almost a 5-inch rain event in a short time period. So that unfortunately led to a erosion concern along the side of the bank coming down the hill. We have evaluated this. We evaluated the existing on-site stormwater management systems. We believe the existing on-site stormwater management systems are okay, and that the runoff from this site was a result of the overtopping of the roof being overtopped and then directed down the hill. We've been working with Mikhail Gannon Associates, a geotech out of Pembroke, Mass. They've actually installed some monitoring wells on the property at the top of the hill just to ensure that there was no groundwater and we didn't have any leaching from the on-site drainage system was installed at the top of the hill. So all that came back positive. So we're very certain that this was a result of the roof runoff coming off the top of the building. At that point, we looked at installing or trying to address this from the top of the slope down. Unfortunately, due to the site utilities, the length of where we need to install a wall down to stabilize this, we're unable to get equipment to the top of the hill through the back. So what we're looking to do is access along a slope around elevation 44, create a shelf along here, and then install a boulder retaining wall, almost similar to something that you would see on a coastal restoration project. We would tow in a big toe stone at the toe with inside the 10-foot and then create a slope back with this. We'd also then on the back side of the wall create good drainage path through the back and then have an under drain system that would connect down the hill on this property. Down the hill and then into the existing drainage system at the base of the hill. Erosion controls, again, would be placed at the bottom of the slope. And again, resource area on this was a IVW at the bottom of the hill down here. 100-foot buffer shown right here in gray. In order to install this, we're looking at coming in, excuse me about that, potentially removing 12 trees on the property, 10 of them within jurisdiction of the commission. Again, these would be field fitted. If we can save the trees, we'll try to save the trees. This was worst case scenario of trying to take these out. There are 2 trees here on the back side that are dead trees that we are looking to take down. These were damaged during the windstorm, excuse me, back in the October of this year. These 2 right through here. So those would be looking to come out as well. Stumps, we're looking to maintain stumps on site as long as they're not in conflict with the proposed wall. Again, looking to keep all the main growth on this slope, minimize the amount of disturbance down this hill along the way. We did get a staff report back earlier today as part of this. Those are the 2 trees outside of jurisdiction or outside the access that if we're trying to take down. As for alternative construction access, again, we don't have the ability to come from the top, the weight of the machinery, the slope stability, concerned with that from the top. So the only access would be along this path, create a 10-foot path, build our wall. We also need to do that too, to tow in the the wall into this to create this and ensure that it's stable along the way. Will trees be replaced? Yes. We would ask that after we build this wall, because we're not sure of the final limits that based on the site conditions, any trees that come down would be documented. We'd look at all the DBH dimensions on that with staff and then look at an appropriate area to plant these trees as we work our way back out from the site. We would like to maintain some type of access along this afterwards, just in case. But again, some of the concerns of planting some of these trees is the stability of this bank. So if there are other areas outside that we can work with staff and plant that, we'd gladly do that. And I ask that that be a condition as part of the order. One other item that we were looking for is also wanted to confirm with staff the tolling period for this order of conditions. This was issued in 2019. It's set to expire in April of this year. But our understanding with talking with Kevin Newton is this would be granted the tolling period of the 462 days. So we'd have over a year on this. Just want to verify that because we still do have to address our wetland plantings in the IVW. Blue Flags has that on their schedule, and we'll be doing that under the original order this spring and doing all this work down here. If this does require an extension, we'll be looking to file that soon to address the 30-day period at an upcoming hearing. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'll turn it back over and entertain questions.
Thanks, Zach.
Yep.
Jen?
First of all, address the tolling period, and yes, Zach, it is my understanding you have 462 days from the date of expiration.
Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Okay. We are concerned with the number of trees coming down, so anything that can be saved, we would appreciate. And they have addressed, you said they are addressing the roof runoff from that.
Yeah, we have a new drainage system on the south side of the building that's going in and tying into a new subsurface system.
Okay. I remember being out on the site early on saying that you were going to have a runoff issue from, I think we were with Brendan Mulaney out there, and we were pointing out, at least down the gravel path that comes down, that we thought that there was going to be a runoff issue from that slope and that gravel path. So you do need to address the stormwater on that site.
Yeah, which we are.
And if all those trees come down, if you mentioned that you would be replacing any, did you? If you were going to have to remove all those things, and if I missed it in your presentation, I apologize.
Yeah, we would document any trees that come down. We do have the DBHs for all the trees that are here. So the ones that do come down, then we'd address it with our mitigation planting and bring that back in front of the commission.
Okay. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman, unless Alyssa has anything to add.
Alyssa?
I have nothing further. Thank you.
Commissioner comments, Kevin?
No comments, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Maury?
I had just a question. So the reason you're cutting all the trees down is because of the access issue?
Correct. Yeah, we need to get a significant size equipment in there to get the boulders in.
Okay, so how are you getting up to are you gonna run up that hill to do your drainage as well?
They can dig that up the drainage, not looking to install that deep. So they can run that and dig a lot of that by hand on the slope, talking with the contractor.
What's the soil there if you're not going that deep? That might have been your problem in the first place, that you didn't have permeability.
It's a glacial till along the way. So right now that the slope of the runoff is coming over the slope. And that's why we brought in Wayne McConnell to look at the geotech to make sure there wasn't a perched water table that was bleeding out on the slope. So we didn't find any of that along the way.
Well, the major problem there is the original roof runoff system was under-designed. That's pretty much the problem.
It was the sizing of the roof itself. It couldn't handle a 6-inch rain event. Just the inlets on the roof.
Yeah, so bad design. I don't know, this, I guess if that's the best plan you can come up with, I still think it's pretty not so great plan, but if that's the best you're gonna come up with, you know, you only cut down about 98% of the trees on that lot. Now you're down to like the last 10. It's really a shame. And cutting the trees down actually destabilizes it because they were actually probably better than this riprap you're putting in. And unless the riprap gets, I didn't really look at the design of the riprap, but I hope whoever does that does it properly so that you don't have the stones, the geotech cloth, the gravel, and everything else running down that hill.
Pulling down.
Anyway, that's all I have to say.
Okay. Pat,
No comments, thank you.
Peter,
No comments.
Betsy,
That's a big problem you have. I mean, it's a mess, but I do have a comment that was a great presentation you gave. It was very clear as what the problem is and how you're attempting to address it.
Thank you.
Courtney,
What are you doing with the stormwater? Are you changing that to redirect it elsewhere so that you don't have that same problem going forward, even though you're putting riprap in?
Yes, we have a new gutter system that's proposed on the side of the building. We're capturing all the runoff from the patios and then it's all put into a system further away from the slope and then it'll address it all. And then we have an under drain system on the back side of the wall that will collect anything and then bring it down. We have a conveyance line for that.
And why can't you do this from above?
It's the weight of the equipment coming down and then the height of where we have to access down to it. And then there's utilities installed at the top. Coming around the back, we have a gas line and then all the irrigation systems from the top reaching down. And then we would still have to be able to get to these trees anyway to install the plateau to get the toe stone in.
And then are you proposing to put trees back?
Yes, so we would document any of the trees that come out, the DBH is as part of it, and then we would come up with a restoration plan with that and then submit that back.
Okay. No other questions?
thank you. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function?
No, Mr. Chairman.
I'll make a motion to close this hearing and take it under advisement.
Bird second.
All right, if there's nothing further. All right. We have a motion and a second to close the hearing. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Hello, Hawk's Eye.
Pat,
Harris, aye.
Peter.
Walsh, aye.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you.
Thanks, Zach.
Zach?
Thanks very much. Have a good evening.
All right, next up, Karen Olcott, trustee of Small Cottage Realty Trust, 141 Fay Road, Falmouth, Mass. Request to amend the order of conditions for Mass DEP number 25-4540 to permit the reconfiguration of the proposed house and the proposed mitigation plantings. Mr. Bunker.
Yes, thank you. For the record, my name is Tom Bunker. I'm impressed you guys are going so long. I couldn't do that week after week. But I'll share my screen now, if I may, and get ready to the project. I'll try to be brief.
Oh, I thought you were forfeiting your hearing. That's
Not after waiting for this long.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see what I have here. This project was done, first done a couple of years ago, I think in 2020. It's at 141 Fay Road, Front Sun Vineyard Sound. This was previously done by Stephen Doyle and Wayne Tavares did this, and since then Karen Olcott hired a new architect in response to what was being built next to her to our south here, and we got involved to do this site plan also. So This is the this proposed house. Let me see. Here's the existing house. So we have this house. This area down here is in the velocity zone, the FEMA velocity zone. And there is the 25-foot FWR V zone that runs around, and otherwise then it's goes directly from velocity zone, and other than the 25-foot V zone, it's in flood zone X up through here. So where the house is not in a velocity zone, or not in a flood zone at all, I should say. And this is Coastal Bank up in this location, steeper than 4 to 1, emanating from the flood zone in this location. There are, I'll point out a couple of trees, basically one oak tree in this location that will be removed, an 18-inch oak, 28-inch oak up at the north property line will stay. There's an olive tree, and some other small triple, I'm not quite sure what type of tree that is right in here, a couple of smaller ones, and some hedge along the south property line and the along Fay Road. The entire house is to be removed from the site and the existing septic system in a small shed. And at the end of the project, this gravel parking, a portion of it will be removed also. Pointed out that this area here is the only naturally vegetated area on the site here, and it has native trees, oak and pine, and one beech tree, but no understory, although there is a little area of native seedlings trying to grow up right in this location. Other than that, it's lawn down to there's one stone wall, a wood deck, some steps going down, another lawn here, stone wall, and dune going there, and then the beach grass and all ends, and that's beach in this location down to Vineyard Sound. All of these is a coastal beach, zone B, the dune zone B, this must be the coastal beach zone A, and ends up with the coastal bank zone B, almost all the way back here to Fay Road. Show you the plan, the proposed plan. It is a larger house. Obviously, you have a new septic system going in this location. Garage, hadn't labeled the driveway, but the driveway, it's a circular driveway type of thing, more elliptical. Enters the garage in this location. That was a question on the staff report. Where's the driveway? That's right here. I have it highlighted on another plan I'll show you. There is a retaining wall through here. The grading will be fairly flat around this side of the house at elevation 24, running around back here and sloping down to 22, and then down another retaining wall, retaining this area up here. It's around elevation 24 and a half, or of course down to elevation 22 here, but it's holding up above this sloping lawn, which goes down the slope. And there was a question on the staff about these two parallel retaining walls. There's a lower entrance to the house in this location, down at elevation 16, going in here. So these are two little wing walls holding up this sloping lawn in this location. And then this lawn on the south side, there's a retaining wall here holding up the flat area for the driveway, and it retains the area where the septic system is going. A couple of steps down, and then this area slopes down gently to the same elevation 16, and then down natural grades down further to the lower level. This house, or the plan rather, their staff recommended they do an overlay. So here's the driveway colored in a little better here. The house here, the red dashed line is the existing house. And there is, the house is here, deck and wooden steps coming off of the deck. And then, these steps are 45 feet from this. This is the top of the coastal bank running through here. And this corner of the house is 45 feet from the same coastal bank. These retaining walls are closer. This retaining wall gets closer than the existing house does. There are, though, the existing stone steps run down the bank now to this location. And this area here it's a landscape feature just to hold back the slope. It is, I don't have the dimension, but it is closer to the coastal bank than the existing house, and it runs closer, obviously, than the proposed house by about 10 feet, I'd say, in there. They said this is the existing gravel driveway, which will be removed and planted. Only part of that is in the Zone B. This is outside your jurisdiction. That's going to be planted also. That's a reduction in coverage. And this is the mitigation planting. This is basically in the same location as what Wayne Tavares had on the approved plan. Although some of his planting went down into the water side of what I felt was dune, and here he had mitigation planting down into this location. We pulled the planting out into some of the lawn to expand it there rather than go into the area where Wayne had it. And we have circles drawn around to not plant within those areas by the trees. And we added shrubs. We had one more cedar tree. The previous plan had 2 cedar trees, so we have 3, and we added more of the shrubs in this location than the approved plan had. There was part of the staff comment. One of the abutters was concerned about parking, staging area, storage of materials. There is, from the edge of the road from the street line, there's 28 feet to the side of the face of the garage. From the edge of the road, there's more than 30 feet of parking depth here, and it's 92 feet from side to side, so they could easily fit 9 cars or trucks through here. From the road into this deeper part of the house, it's 40 feet deep. So it is tight, but there is room to park people. They'll have to do some carpooling. They'll have to be frugal with their parking because obviously they should not and cannot block the traffic on Fay Road. But I'm sure we've all seen houses built on smaller, tighter spots than this, and it can be done with the right site manager doing the job. So that's the proposal. I will stop my share and take questions.
Thanks, Tom. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we're going to need a continuance on this one. You know, it was really hard to evaluate the existing to the proposed without having to overlay, and we did ask Tom for that late. But also like where the driveway is and everything else. Tom, you have a reduction in mitigation, and it looks like you have a lot more it's a bigger house than what was proposed, so why is it a smaller house than what was proposed?
I didn't really compare it with the other house that had been proposed. I don't think it's smaller. I will tell you that there was a difference in how the coastal bank was delineated.
And what was that difference?
What's that?
And what was that difference?
The difference was that I used only the FEMA velocity zone to determine where the coastal bank, and this came out of a hearing I had on Kerry Lane when I did use the extra 25 feet of velocity zone on a hearing, and at that time I was told I didn't have to. I was just using the FEMA velocity zone, the FEMA flood zone.
What was that? I'm sorry, Tom. Sorry, I didn't hear him.
The Falmouth velocity zone, you have an extra 25 feet landward.
Yeah.
And I did have a hearing on Kerry Lane. This was some years ago, a decade or more ago. At which time I had used the Falmouth Wetland Regulations velocity zone to determine where the top of the coastal bank would be. And at that hearing, I was told that I did not have to do that. It would be based on where the FEMA velocity zone is. And so what I did on this site is I used the FEMA velocity zone to determine the location of the coastal bank. And on the Doyle plan, I believe they used the FWR velocity zone to determine the coastal bank.
Well, I would like to know the file number, the site conditions, because I need to compare why the commission made that decision a decade or more.
Mm-hmm.
To determine the top of the coastal bank. Because the whole point of the whole problem and the whole struggle with this particular project was not moving closer to the top of that coastal bank. That was the whole struggle with this property.
Right.
Along with the placement of the mitigation plantings all squished up against the side over there. So I need to find out if you're going to sit there and say that if you're going to make that kind of argument that you use this because of that, and that's the last time you did that, and all of a sudden we're resurrecting the way you did it way back when, even though from then all the other plans you've produced since then, you've done it a different way. I'm going to want to see, I want to see that plan. I want to see the overlay. If possible, if you can overlay somehow the original proposed plan over this plan, because I do have concerns with those wing walls coming closer to the coastal bank. And now I'm going to look at that coastal bank delineation really closely.
Yep.
So Tom, if you could just kind of find that information for me and provide that, it would be really helpful. And I know the board wanted, was kind of, I had some, yes, Ms. Alcott, you can make a comment in 1 second. I'll promote you up. I see your comment. What was I saying? Oh, I heard from some of the commissioners that they didn't understand why you hadn't produced the original plan. And, I told them it wasn't done by you, but so if next time
Doesn't matter.
yeah, ask us for that. We'll give you copies and then you can submit that. But if,
I have the plan. I have a copy of the plan.
I want to, Mr. Chairman, we just need to see, Alyssa and I need to evaluate that overlay. And we haven't had a chance to. And then Tom, if you can get me the information on that Kerry Lane property you did.
Yeah.
I may or may not agree with you, but we'll see.
Right.
Okay.
Anything else? Alyssa.
I'm all set for now. Thank you.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to promote Miss Alcott up. She's the property owner. Ms. Alcott, you've been promoted to a panelist. You may address the board.
Hello, everybody. Nice to see you all. I just wanted to clarify, the reason that I hired Tom Bunker was that when I saw the house being built next door at 133 Fay Road, the survey on their property that was approved and then the survey on my property were not the same. And so I guess I just wanted to clarify that I wasn't trying to do anything different. I just wanted to have it contiguous from one neighbor to the other neighbor so that we had sort of the same conditions. And I just wanted to, you know, I had to hire, I chose to hire BSS to kind of do the survey to get it upgraded so it's contiguous. And then I hired a new architect because of the impact of what the 133 property is. So I just wanted to make sure that that's understood as you guys look at these revisions that that are costly and timely and stuff for me as a property owner, trying to get it right and not go outside the boundaries of what you guys have approved. So I just wanted to make that comment. I hope that's helpful.
Thank you. All right, Betsy.
I can't ask any questions because I didn't know what was approved. And so, Tom, when you put in an amendment, how can we evaluate the amendment if we don't know what was originally approved? So anyway,
Well, I
that's my
think-
only comment. I can't make any
Yeah.
comments until you give us more information.
It's all in the conservation office. But I
Well, could you have gotten it from the conservation office?
Oh, I have it, and I didn't realize you all needed copies of it.
Well, how can we evaluate what the changes are if we don't know what the original was? I mean, I remember this. I remember when we permitted it, but I can't remember the details of it.
Yeah.
Would it be helpful if I showed what was permitted? I
Not
have it.
now.
Okay,
No.
that's
You know,
fine.
we spend a long time
No,
looking over
I
these
remember.
plans.
I remember.
Courtney?
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it would be helpful to see just because it would help us review the thing to see what was originally approved. So yeah, I would go along with Betsy on that.
All right, Kevin?
Yeah, I'll go along with what Court and Betsy said.
All right, Maury?
Yeah, I mean, I remember this one as well, but I'm looking even at the plan we have right now. And the mitigation plantings aren't making, it says zone B mitigation required. 1,852 square feet, but then on the plan, mitigation B is 200 square feet. So I just think there's a lot of details that need to get ironed out. And it was, the existing house is 11% of the lot, and now it's 23%. So, and I don't know what we permitted. Did we permit 22.9%? Or, I don't know. So we need the old order that we approved to compare. Thank you.
Pat?
I appreciate everybody's comments because I was trying to figure out what the heck we were amending. So yeah, I wait to see all the materials. Thank you.
Peter?
I agree with everyone else.
Yeah, this is, I don't know if this really follows an amendment. This is like a brand new project. I mean, pretty extensive. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Colgan, I believe, is the neighbor. He has his hand raised. I'm promoting him to a panelist. And then I have a question for Tom when we're done. I just can't help myself.
Wouldn't expect it any other way.
Just having too much fun.
Hello.
Hello, Mr. Colgan.
Turn
Good
your
evening.
video on, please.
Excuse me.
Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for your time tonight. I've learned a lot listening through all the different projects, but I'm in favor of what's going on next door. Hopefully it works out well. My only concerns, and Tom did address it, very tight road. Having experienced some major construction next door, there were considerable trucks, equipment, materials that had to be stored, handled. And I was very concerned with how's all that going to take place on a small lot when, from what I know, it appeared as though you couldn't do any of this from the back of the yard. So most of this was going to be done where the existing house is, or the new house is, towards the street. And I'm not even sure if this is the right forum to address the parking issues, passage issues, and trying to preserve across the street is, I think it's state-owned. Just making sure that would all be kept in check as is. And then if the project can be done under those conditions, then, good luck, and I wish the best. And then my only other question is, Tom, on the work zone between our properties, it looks like you've run the defined work zone right on the property line. Is that standard? You go right up to the line with the safe working area?
Go up to the line, if it's a very fine line, and this is, I know there's a retaining wall up by the road that's pretty close, like a foot away from the property line, but with a silt fence or something that, the work zone can be up to the property line. But I don't have it up against, it's not intended to damage or hurt, the hedge that's there or anything.
Mm-hmm. All right, so the digging for that wall is, if it's a wall, I would assume you have to put in a footing. It looks like the wall's right on the property line. Wouldn't the footing go beyond the property line?
It doesn't need to have a footing. It'd be one of the modular block walls that don't require a footing.
Okay.
Dig a hole, stack it on a gravel base, but then it's not a concrete that would require a footing.
All right. And if the parking becomes an issue, who would I turn to deal with it if it just got to be a constant issue? And in terms of the road blockage.
It's a private road, sir.
Well, I imagine you
No,
talk to
it's
the
not.
foreman on the site first.
Well, of course I'd do that, and I would talk with my neighbor Karen, who's on there. Hello, Karen. But sometimes Karen's not there, or I'm not there. But if it was too often, I would like to. I'm just asking who I would call in the town to deal with the situation.
Unfortunately, sir, again, it's a private road, so it's not going to be under the jurisdiction of the Concom to police the road, nor would it be under the jurisdiction of the DPW to police the road. Quite frankly, I don't know who you would call, because the DPW is going to tell you the same thing I'm telling you, is that it's a private road, so they're not going to get involved or have any jurisdiction, and neither is this board. We're going to say that they need to keep all their construction access and the materials and staging on their property. It becomes a private issue.
Okay.
How to make friends with the GC.
Mm-hmm. You can imagine how much controversy we would get ourselves in if we started policing all the construction projects around town, sir.
I understand. I was asking.
No, I understand.
And you pointed out it's a private road, so I get it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Courtney?
Is there, and this I'll direct to Karen and Bob, is there a homeowners association that regulates everything down there?
No.
I mean, you
No,
can almost
no.
call. if you
No,
did-
there's not, and there's been several homes that have been built along Fay Road, so I definitely understand Rob's comments. And we've all had to live through other houses being built on that road too, so I'm not the first one to come into this, and I do understand it's a tight property, but I think we'll just be as good cordial neighbors as we have been through the other construction.
Yeah, that's the best approach.
All right, Tom.
Keep
what do
the
you think
channels of communication open.
Okay,
Tom?
Jen had another question for me.
I had another question for you, Tom. Did you delineate the coastal bank on the adjacent property the same way you delineated this one? Or did you delineate it differently and you're relying on the delineation for the Kerry Lane project for this one?
On the Mr. Culligan's property, the FEMA velocity zone went all the way up. There was no difference whether the FEMA velocity zone went all the way to the top of the bank, so there was no question.
Okay.
And that clearly there was the top of a coastal bank on that because it leveled off.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a big difference between the two sites in the existing conditions that we started with.
Oh, there is a big difference between the two sites. All right, Tom, get me that Kerry Lane project, please.
Yes.
All right, what are we looking for?
Continuance.
What's available?
Oh, I know.
Where did my stupid little sheet go? Oh, here it is. Yeah. Maybe if I continue to March 2nd. 1, 2, 3. It's going to be the one after March 2nd, Tom. So hang on. There.
The 9th?
9.
March 9?
March 9th. I had to make sure we were having a meeting that night. March 9th.
Okay, I request for continuance to March 9th.
Thank
So
you,
we'll-
Tom.
At the request of the applicant, I move to continue this to March 9th.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this until March 9th. If there's nothing else. All right, Betsy,
Gladfelder, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Pat,
RSI.
Peter.
Walsh, aye.
It is unanimous. We've continued this until March 9th. Thank you, Mr. Bunker. Thank you.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Alcott.
Good night.
Thank you.
Night.
thank you.
Next up, continued hearings under an enforcement order.
1 second, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah, I'm working on that. Delay. We're continuing the enforcement order until March 2nd, which is when we continued the 18 Willis Lane notice of intent till.
Moved.
Second.
All right, hold on. I haven't even read it yet. Kevin Clower, the second trustee, 18 Willis Lane Nominee Trust, 18 Willis Lane, East Falmouth, Mass. Unpermitted removal of mitigation and restoration plantings associated with Mass DEP number 25-4099. So we're going to continue it until 3/2, did you say?
Yes.
Thank you. All right. I'll take the
So
motion in a
moved.
second. Thank you.
So moved to continue to March 2nd. No, March 2nd.
Yeah,
Okay.
yes. Harris, second.
All right. A motion and a second to continue this until March 2nd. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Hawk's eye.
Harris, aye.
Peter.
Walsh, aye.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until March 2nd. Next up, vote order of conditions. First up, Matt Kelly, Great Harbors Resident Association, 333 Shorewood Drive, East Falmouth, Mass.
This is a Phragmites removal project. Give me 1 second, Mr. Chairman. I just need 1 second.
You want the quorum, Jamie?
Please.
Courtney, Betsy, Jamie, Peter, Pat.
The only concern that I had with this
No
one.
Lori, no Kevin.
The concerns I had with this one was the use of the backpack sprayer through the whole area because they were going to target. Oh, how was it phrased, Alyssa? Non-desirable native vegetation or something.
Yeah.
Like
That is what they said. Yes, it is. The undesirables.
Yeah, undesirable native vegetation. And I have some real concerns with that. There's not a whole lot of Phragmites out there in comparison with other sites that have used backpack sprayers. So I would prefer to see a cut and drip method used on this particular property. But we can speak with them. And I think that Ms. Dealey was agreeable to that in the hearing, and that we'll set up on-site prior to them doing the work.
Yeah, I think there might be some areas that, I mean, we couldn't visit the site actually. So I don't know what it looks like, but it sounded as if there are areas where it's thick and there's areas where it's sparse. And so maybe a pre-site meeting, you can discuss the approach.
Yeah.
She did fundamentally agree with you, though.
Yeah, she did.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I don't think it'll become an issue.
Isn't
Does anybody
it-
have any? Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, isn't this the same group, Jen, who did it over on Flume Pond? This is an experienced group with doing Phragmites work.
Yeah, I mean, it's how I always say it wrong, and Courtney always corrects me. It's Paul. What is it? Courtney, who did yours?
Chris Paulton.
Yeah, Politan. It's Politan's group. He's part of the owner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so they have a lot of experience with this. So I think if you go out with them and just.
Oh, yeah, we will.
Yeah.
But it was the language used in the.
Right. No, I agree.
That concerned me.
But this one, this guy isn't Chris, is it? Is it?
No, this was Joan Dealey that presented this.
It's his company, Courtney.
Huh?
These are people work with him. It's his company.
Oh, okay. He just
Yeah.
put some more names. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because what they'll do is, depending on the density, they'll use a spray where it's a monoculture, but in areas where it's mixed, you got Phragmites in with natives, they'll use cut and drip or the bloody glove method.
Yeah, well, that's what they said. That's what they said in their narrative.
Yeah, and that's what they do.
Yeah. Okay, I'll make a motion to accept this as discussed. Or issue this order as discussed.
Second.
All right. Does anybody else have anything additional they want to see in there? We have a motion and a second to issue an order of conditions as discussed. Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Pat,
Harris, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
It is unanimous. We have issued an order of conditions. Thank you. Next up, Christopher J. Hall, 8 Cotuit Road, North Falmouth, Mass.
Yes,
And
Mr.
quorum, please.
This time it's just 4 of us, Betsy, Jamie, Pat, and Peter.
This is the proposed, moving the proposed garage and attaching it to the house, adding a covered porch, adding a expanded deck, another proposed addition. They wanted to leave the foundation of the existing garage. We were not happy with that, and actually neither was DEP. So now they're removing that foundation, regrading the coastal bank, and then planting the bank. That sum it up?
Yeah,
Yes.
pretty much. I think he covered everything we were looking for, so all standard stuff. Anybody have anything additional they want to see? All right,
So I'll make a motion to accept or to issue this order as discussed.
Walsh, second.
all right. We have a motion and a second to issue an order of conditions as discussed. There's nothing further. All right, Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Matthews, aye. Pat,
Harris, aye.
Peter?
Walsh, aye.
It is unanimous. We have issued an order of conditions. Next up, John and Catherine Smits, 56 East Harbor Drive, Falmouth, Mass. And I have the quorum. Is it everyone, Bets?
Courtney, Betsy, Jamie, Peter, Pat, not Maury.
Poor Maury.
Oh, Maury.
All right. So
Fiber roll project.
Yeah, it was
don't have any
modified,
special-
modified a little bit to protect the seagrass that was there.
Yeah, we had Jeff do some more transects. And then Alyssa, you had a comment that Jeff addressed DEP's technical comments, and I think that related to the salt marsh performance standards, correct? Yeah, I think that's why we made him do that other transect to protect that salt marsh. I think the Callie's comments were 10-32. Yeah. Just have to do an onsite and make sure they put extra measures in to protect that little salt marsh, that little bit of salt marsh.
And I think, didn't we have a discussion about not removing any of the roots of the trees?
Yes.
I think they were going to just cut off the dangling roots and not dig out any roots.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Anything else? All
I'll
right.
make a motion to issue an order as discussed.
Walsh, second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to issue an order of conditions as discussed. If there's nothing further. All right, Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
I am the quorum?
No, you're not.
Thank you.
oh. You told me only Betsy, only Maury was off. All right,
Sorry.
Pat,
Harris, aye.
Peter.
Walsh, aye.
It is unanimous. We have issued an order of conditions. Next up, boat enforcement order. Kim Chow and Tai Boo, 61 Shorewood Drive, East Falmouth, Mass.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is the one where staff provided the commission with all the relevant aerial photographs and information that we could, gather from different listings and everything else. So the issue is the extension of the patio from the porch and house area where those walls came out from underneath the house, kind of like the walls that Tom was proposing. And then that little platform viewing area over by the salt marsh, which wouldn't be allowed.
I think we were left with instructions to really look at these photographs and see if we believe them that the patio was permitted or installed prior to acquisition under the deck in its current location. And I can't tell from the photographs, to be honest with you. I'm confused by them.
How about the
viewing
platform?
area, though? The platform is a no-brainer. That just showed up out of nowhere.
Okay. We can have them
Anybody
review.
else? Does anybody else have an opinion about what was under the deck? I can't really make it out.
We can't see what was under the deck, is that correct?
Well, I can't
Alyssa,
make
do
it
you
out.
want to kind of walk them through it?
So if we presume that the deck was there all along, and we can assume there was something underneath it, we can always ask they pull out the patio beyond the edge of the deck.
Well, I think that's what was suggested to us, right?
Yeah.
Yes, that was the part in question, was when you're looking at the aerial from the deck towards the water, that section. I tried my best to put nice circles around that area. I think for staff, when we looked at it, we thought we could see more concrete heading towards the water or whatever the grayscale of the pavers was. But it is very difficult to see in the photos, and that's why we wanted to bring this to the board and leave it in your hands. It was very challenging to tell exactly and to make a definitive opinion on our part.
I don't find the evidence. Oh, go on.
I'm all set, thank you.
Their contention is it's there, been there all along.
Yes, to a degree.
Yeah.
Looking at the photos, it looks like the retaining walls, is that proper word for them, were reconstructed. It's hard to tell the extent of the patio when they bought it, just because the pictures were not overly clear. That's why I put so many aerials. So it looks like a little work was done. I'm not sure the extent.
Because the burden's on us, it's an enforcement action. The burden is on us to establish that this wasn't permitted, and I'm not comfortable.
I'm not either.
Yeah.
Are we talking about the area under the deck or the whole patio?
No, there are two areas, Courtney. One is the under the deck, and then there's this other little deck that's out in the lawn. Which
that I think we can.
Yeah, I can't see that
We
there's
can't
evidence
prove when
that
it
it was
was put
there.
in.
Right.
Yeah, I would leave the air. I mean, it's very likely that there was a patio under that deck, just simply because that's a logical thing you do. But if you can't see it, you can't prove it.
Yeah, but I don't think we have enough evidence to have them take it out.
That's what I mean. So
Yeah.
the burden is on us, not on them. So
All right.
I think we let that part of it go.
I move that they issue an order of enforcement to remove the viewing area deck.
I'll second it.
All right, so just to be clear, the motion and the second on the table is to issue an enforcement order to remove the viewing section. Did I get that right?
Right.
No? Jen shaking her head.
No, I'm looking at the aerials. I'm going back and forth with the aerials from near map.
Am I on the
There's nothing
quorum,
conclusive.
Betsy?
Oh, Betsy?
I don't know, were you here last week?
No.
Then you're not.
Ooh, I'm not either then.
Well, I don't have a list. I would have written this down, but it didn't come to me, so I don't know.
Everybody that was here last week.
I just knew this didn't ring a bell at all with me.
Yeah.
All right, so again, the motion and the second is on the table to issue an order, an enforcement order to remove it. So.
Do we need to
We'll take a-
add anything else to the order, Jamie? Or Jen? Like, does it have to be removed?
Oh, I would have it removed by a date certain, and if you want to follow, I mean, we took a very hard stance on the property next door only because they stopped communicating with us. We still haven't heard from them to address our enforcement order. So
But that was also clearer.
Oh, absolutely. No, I'm looking at a 2005 aerial from GeoMap. It's not there. That viewing platform is not there.
So what
It
date
went-
should we say? By
When was
March
that?
31st, May 31st?
It's not there in 12. Yeah, that's fine. If you want to give them until May, that's fine.
Well, the ground's soft, not going through ice and snow.
Why not April
But
31st?
you just said, Jen, you just said there's evidence it was not there.
Yeah. I don't see it.
What's that?
And it does not appear to be there. Here, let me share my screen, guys. I know it's getting late. Bear with me. This is our last one.
What are we talking about? Are we talking about the isolated one that we just are ready to vote?
Yes.
Well, we're ready to vote it. We have a motion on the table to take it off, take it out by Courtney wants April 30th.
I like April 30th. That's 3 months. That's plenty of time. Then they got time to plant the grass and let it grow.
There you go. What did you
April
want to show
30th
us,
it
Jen?
is.
At once. Go
Did you
ahead.
want to clarify that you felt that spot had been there for a long time? The viewing?
No, I don't see it. I can show the area. I can show you guys. That's why Alyssa and I provided all the aerials to you. It's, you know, the patio under the house, that can be iffy, but that viewing platform.
Right.
But we talked for 10 minutes that it wasn't obvious, and now you're saying it is obvious. So
No,
that's what I'm
she's-
looking for.
She's
No,
saying
she's
it's not
talking about
there.
two different things.
She's saying what we just have the motion on the table to remove the isolated viewing platform was not there in 2005, and we're saying it has to be removed by April 30th.
That sounds good to me.
Do you see a viewing platform here, guys?
No, we don't. That's what we voted. We didn't see it before.
Okay, and that was what year?
2005. That's
Okay, now-
2014.
And there,
There's 2019 and it shows up.
Yeah,
you go back one,
2017 you showed
please?
us.
And if I skip over here to near map, this is 2016 near map right there. And then it shows up, I believe, Nope, that's 2017 near map. And then 2018 it appears. So if you look at
There
this
you go.
tree right here,
Yeah.
That's what we want out.
where is it?
That's it. That's
Yeah,
pretty
I'm clear. All right, motion, second. Deaf. Let's take a vote. You ready?
Yep.
Just to issue an enforcement order to remove it by, what did you say, April 30th?
April.
That's a
Correct.
great date. Perfect. Betsy,
Halter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Pat,
Harris, aye.
Peter?
Walsh, aye.
It is unanimous. We have issued an enforcement order. Thank you.
It was a long one tonight, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, past my bedtime.
We'll
All
make a
right, thank you for
motion.
clarifying that,
adjourn.
Jen.
Not a problem.
I'll second Maury's motion to adjourn.
All right, Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye. Oh, we can't hear you, Jamie.
Bird, aye.
thank you. Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Carl Hawks, aye.
Harris, aye.
waiting
Walsh,
for,
aye.
see? Thank you, everyone.
Good night,
Thank
everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Good night, everybody.
Hi, guys.
Good night.